evening to you and welcome to a raucous, to a rowdy Tyneside. It's Carabao Cup quarter-final night and Newcastle United and Leicester City are dreaming of a bit of glory. And for Newcastle in particular, there is a real weight of expectation around this evening because it has been a long wait for a major trophy. You have to go back all the way to 1969 for their last success, the European Intercities Fairs Cup, and some will go even further back for one of the game's big honours, all the way to 1955 when they last won the FA Cup. Leicester City, of course, have had much more recent success when it comes to silverware, but still, to be 2 rounds away from Wembley, it's tantalisingly close for Brendan Rodgers' side as well. I'm Vicky Sparks, and alongside me to take you through this evening is the former England and Aston Villa midfielder Steve Stone. And Steve, looking around St James's Park here, it's a sellout crowd, and this is what supporters group Wore Flags wanted. They said, let's go all the way back to the atmosphere of Alan Shearer's testimonial back in 2006. Everybody bring your black and white scarves, whirl them around your heads, and that is what we are seeing, a sea of black and white all around us.
Do you know what? I haven't seen scenes like this for many years, and probably don't think I've ever seen scenes like this. Just to set the picture, there's flags everywhere. The club puts flags under everybody's seat, and they're not small flags either, they're huge ones. Everybody's picked them up and waving them, and there's a huge Newcastle United flag behind the goal, which is getting passed all the way along back and forwards, and it's a great sight. And the players haven't even got anywhere near the pitch yet. It's going to be a great night.
Yeah, the players waiting in the tunnel. How did Leicester City come out and deal with this atmosphere? Because Brendan Rodgers said before this match, didn't it, that this stadium is one that he always looks forward to coming to. And on 5 Live we were hearing from local journalist Luke Edwards of The Telegraph and saying that despite this atmosphere, and it is fantastic, there are real nerves here from Newcastle fans because this means so much to them.
Well, there won't be nerves right at the start. There'll only be nerves if Leicester quieten the crowd down, and that's what Leicester will try and do. They'll try and slow it down as much as they possibly can. They'll try to use their possession-based football, which they're really good at, and they will not quicken the game up at any stage whatsoever throughout this first half. They will try and stay in the game for as long as they possibly can, so they can try and either get a set play or control the game through their possession. Newcastle, of course, the other way, have to come out and dominate right from the start. They have to use this crowd and this atmosphere and this energy that's building this stadium, and they have to come out firing exactly like they did against Leicester in the Premier League match away from home. It's going to be a great start. I'm really looking forward to the game. You can sense the atmosphere in here is unbelievable.
Yeah, they were 2-0 up Newcastle just 4 games ago away to Leicester, 3-0 up after 32 minutes. Will it be the same story? In terms of the team news, both sides made 8 changes for their FA Cup ties at the weekend, and that's another reason why this game is so huge for Newcastle, because they're already out of the FA Cup. 2nd season running, they lost to League One opposition, this time in Sheffield Wednesday. Leicester won 1-0 at League Two's bottom club Gillingham, but both go as strong as they can for this one. So Newcastle named the same side that drew 0-0 with Arsenal at the Emirates in the Premier League. Alan St-Maximin back from illness, and club record signing Alexander Isak, who made his long-awaited injury comeback last match against Sheffield Wednesday, are on the bench. Leicester, who are ravaged by injuries, made 1 enforced change from their Premier League defeat by Fulham. That's Michael Brighton in for the injured Boubakary Soumaré. Steve, let's talk about Leicester's injuries. I mean, you look at the players that they've got missing. James Justin, Johnny Evans the captain, Ryan Bertrand, Ricardo Pereira, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, Boubakary Soumaré, Dennis Pratt, James Maddison. They do have Patson Daka available for this one, which is a big boost for them. Weren't sure if he was going to be back, but he is. But there's a huge wealth of experience, of talent, and although the starting lineup is strong, the bench is bare bones stuff.
Yeah, well, he's going to rely on his first 11 when they actually hold the fort out there. And they're still a very experienced Leicester side who's out there tonight. It could come down to, the key could be the changes that Newcastle make, what they use from their bench. Can they bring St Maximin and people like that to change the game? Leicester, of course, as you've just mentioned, they've got so many injuries that they'll probably not be able to change it. They'll probably have to go with 11, and a few young lads might have to come on at some stage. You've mentioned them injuries as well, though. But they lost Fofana as well to Chelsea in the summer. They lost Schmeichel, who was a massive presence at this football club. Johnny Evans has been a leader and a captain throughout this. You know, Vardy we talk about as well, who hasn't been fit that often. Him and Daka have been flip-flopping at times. So it's going to be a difficult night. Unless Leicester can quieten the crowd down like we talked about and impose their style of play. That's what football's about, is styling your style of play on the opposition. Not letting the home crowd and the home team get in their own way. Leicester need to do that right from the start.
And Leicester are already in their starting positions as Newcastle break away from their huddle, and the roar around St James's Park. We still have a few black and white scarves whirling, a few black and white flags waving, because this is huge for Newcastle United. Make no mistake, of course Leicester City want to reach the semi-finals as well, but this is a Newcastle side who have real belief of winning their first major trophy since 1969. They're out of the FA Cup unless they're to make a charge for the Premier League title, and we know how well they're going in the Premier League. This is the tournament that offers by far the best chance and likely the only chance of silverware this season. So we're underway here at St James's Park. Leicester City playing from left to right, in possession early on, having taken the kick-off. Winner throw deep in Newcastle territory over on the left-hand side. Here is the former Newcastle man, Ayoze Perez. And he's dispossessed just outside the Newcastle penalty area, and Newcastle will play the bay forwards to Bruno Guimaraes, up towards Almiron. Over the halfway line, he drives. Still going Almiron, who scored so early on in the Premier League. Can they do so again? Lays it off to Willett, left-hand side, pulls the ball across. Oh, what a chance! Missed on the corner of the 6-yard box. What an opportunity for Newcastle to take the lead early doors, and they can't hit the target. Huge chance.
Well, it's better than a huge chance, I've got to be honest with you. He should score from there. He's 7 yards out, Longstaff. But it's Almiron, with Bruno found Almiron in the pocket. He's run 60-70 yards with the ball. Great little weighted pass inside the full-back for Willock to pull back, and he's pulled it back into a great area for Longstaff, who's just got underneath it, bounced it into the floor and made a real mess of it. I don't know whether it's just come too early in the game or what, or he hasn't got any belief in himself, but he didn't seem to have that belief of a man who's going to score goals.
It was a great run, wasn't it, Steve? That's the frustration, as Newcastle won't keep the ball inside their own half, and Leicester win the ball over on that right-hand side. But yes, huge frustration for Longstaff. I was here to see them draw 0-0 with Leeds on New Year's Eve, and he missed a couple of chances that day as well. And it has been a problem for Newcastle. Eddie Howe's pulled it out in the last couple of games as they win a throw on halfway.
Well, we've looked at Newcastle, and they do have obviously Almiron, who's had a career 4 months of scoring some amazing goals and getting on the score sheet and creating as well. And obviously you've got Wilson in attack, who's their main man, and you need to keep him fit. So the rest of the team do need to start chipping in with a few goals to take the pressure off the rest of the big boys who've been delivering so far. And I've got to say, the likes of Joe Linton and Willock and Longstaff
as Leicester give the ball away just outside their own penalty area. Newcastle trying to work at the shot, driven by Guimaraes. It's just wide. Oh, we got some power behind that, Bruno Guimaraes. It's behind for a Leicester goal kick, but Newcastle have started this match so brightly. Well,
Newcastle started brightly, but Leicester have they've got too many men in advanced positions. Every time the ball breaks down, Newcastle are a 5-on-4, a 6-on-4. The likes of Tielemans, Barnes, they're way too far forward. They've got to get themselves back behind the ball. When they're in possession, they cannot stretch themselves. They cannot be that much distance between back to front. They need to be much more compact, just in case when Newcastle come on that press, it breaks down.
Leicester pick up the ball on halfway. Newcastle have a player down, but play continues, and Patson Daka is towards the penalty area, comes out to the left-hand side, and Harvey Barnes, who miscontrols, and Newcastle win the ball back just inside their own penalty area, and they've stopped play now. because they still have a player down just inside their own half. 0-0, frenetic start, 3.5 minutes gone, and I can take you through the teams. Newcastle with Nick Pope in goal. The back four of Trippier, Schär, Botman and Byrne. Ahead of them it's Longstaff, Guimaraes and Willock, with Almiron, Joelinton and Callum Wilson up top. Leicester have Ward in goal. The back four of Castagna, Amati, Fass and Thomas. Ahead of them it's Tielemans and Ndidi, with Albrighton, Perez, the former Newcastle man, and Barnes supporting Patson Daka up front.
Well, from my point of view, we talked about before, when you come to Newcastle, you like to want to be nice and compact, not give them the spaces in between the lines to run into, make sure they can't get out to Almiron. The very right side dominant team, Newcastle, with Trippier and Almiron on that side and Sean Longstaff, and Bruno always finds those little passes into those areas. You have to cut those spaces out. You've got to make sure that they don't get those balls into those sort of areas. And Leicester have been the gaps between back to front are huge to start with. So you've got the back four sitting there, the two in front, and then they've got four at the top end of the pitch. And then sometimes Tielemans as well is vacating that area in front of his back four and getting lost and leaving it at 4 and a 1. There's way too much space for Newcastle's midfield players to play in between at the minute. Leicester need to close those gaps up, and they need to do it pretty quickly. Newcastle have had 3 opportunities already. That's way too many. It's got a real cup tie feel as well.
Yeah, and certainly one of them, Sean Longstaff, should have scored, as Fabian Schär, the Newcastle player down, is back up to his feet, and Leicester in possession over on the far side with Harvey Barnes, who can't keep it in, and Newcastle will have a throw with Kieran Trippier over on that far side, as Eddie Howe watches on the edge of his technical area. As we mentioned, he has called on his Newcastle side to be more clinical. 22 shots on goal they had last match against Sheffield Wednesday, 16 attempts on goal against Leeds. They scored once against Wednesday. They didn't score against Leeds. Will they net against Leicester City in this Carabao Cup quarter-final here on 5 Sports Extra? That particular ball forward, rather aimless, and Danny Ward will watch it behind, and Leicester have another goal kick.
Well, the Leeds game, I came as a supporter, actually. I went behind one of the goals. Hadn't done that for many years, and it was a really interesting experience, I've got to be honest with you. But on that occasion as well, Newcastle had gilt-edge opportunities to win the game. Not clear-cut, not loads of them. I thought Leeds were excellent in the defending and what they tried to do that day. And Leicester, on the other hand, since they've come back from the World Cup, have played against Newcastle, Manchester United, I think it was Fulham as well. So they've played some tough teams, some teams that have been in form.
And they're coming through the centre here. Patson Daka, denied by Nick Pope, who came out very quickly and gathered on the edge of his penalty area. But he's looked lively early on, Patson Daka.
Yeah, he's getting in between people, definitely. That's his strength.
As Newcastle look to get down the right-hand side, Fasco sliding in, but can't stop the surging run forward as the deflected effort from Callum Wilson bounces behind for the Newcastle corner. Lovely move from Newcastle.
Well, we talk about Newcastle being right-side dominant again. All season it's been happening. Ball comes out to Trippier. Pope sets him off really quickly as he comes out and slides out to meet Daka. Into Almiron, who skips the challenge, and a great ball back for Callum Wilson, who's ran off the centre halves. Cut back, little deflection. Looked like he was just going to go in the top corner, and luckily just went past the post. But Newcastle on the counter-attack, especially at the minute, are breaking Leicester down way too easy. And that's what happens sometimes when you play against a 4-2-3-1. There's loads of space in the wide area if Leicester get too many men forward.
Yeah, it's one of those that could have gone anywhere, but it's gone behind for this Newcastle corner, which is swung in from the right-hand side. Joelinton meets it with his head and stretching at the far post. Newcastle can't find the final touch. It was the tall figure of Dan Byrne up there, the boyhood Newcastle fan. Well, he's got the height, but didn't quite get the connection, and it's behind for another Leicester goal kick. 7 minutes gone, goalless here in this Carabao Cup quarter-final.
I'm not too sure that was that Dan Byrne or was it Longstaff at the back post? I'm just trying to see the. And if it was Dan Byrne, I would expect him to get his head on that. I thought it was a great opportunity for him. It was a great header back across, and his physical presence, you would have thought he would have got on that. If it was Longstaff, I'll let him off.
Slightly less height, yeah. But still no converted chance as yet for Newcastle, and it's still goalless, but it has been largely very much the home side so far, although, as we say, Patson Daka, and he has got through the middle, has looked positive for Leicester City as the ball is out to the right hand side, and Castagna and now Amati all the way back to Danny Ward inside the Leicester City penalty area, plays it out to the left-hand side. Here is Jose Perez. Few boos for the former Newcastle man, who commits the foul as well on halfway, and Newcastle have a free kick, Steve.
Yeah, just in again, we're just looking at Leicester, and when they're in possession, they've got the four across the back. The full-backs will push on really high. Indeed, he'll just sit in front of that back four, and Tielemans is actually then trying to push really far forward to try and link with Perez and Dakar. But they're so wide and so expansive, and Newcastle are pressing so high up the pitch that it looks like the ball's going to get turned over every single time Newcastle come on the press, and the gaps are just way too big, and it just makes it far too easy. Leicester just need to just settle this game down, make sure they get more compact in the game, and restrict those spaces all over the pitch, not just in between the lines.
At the moment they have another set piece to defend, swung forward to the edge of the penalty area. Burn wins the header, Wilson tries to bring it down under pressure, so stabs it back to Almiron, who plays it out to the right hand side. Little 1-2, Almiron will pick it back up, plays it in, blocked behind, another Newcastle corner.
Well, I've counted Newcastle have had about 4 or 5 crosses from that right hand side. Leicester need to get across there and shut it down. They've had experience of that in the league only 3 or 4 weeks ago when they got beat 3-0, I think it was. So they need to shut that right side down. It's so dominant. Almiron and Trippier and Longstaff linking really well on so many occasions. And Newcastle so far have had 4 really, really good opportunities already.
Can they fashion another one from this corner? 9.5 minutes played, swung into the edge of the 6-yard box. Good header away by Ndidi. Miscue on the edge of the penalty area by Almiron, and Leicester will try and spring the counter. Good interception though by Almiron, sends it back to Trippier, and it's all the way back on halfway as Newcastle will build once more. Forward they go to Callum Wilson. Nice touch by the striker, and good foot in by Wilfred Ndidi as he forces him out to the right hand side. Very well dealt with that by Leicester. Luke Thomas will clear away, and Fabian Schär let that run, and that might be ill-advised. It is, because Patson Daka's picked it up. He's advancing towards the penalty area. Botman's there, Schär is getting back as well, so Daka will lay it off to Tielemans. Deflected interception, cleared away by Schär up towards halfway, and Amati picks it up in the centre circle for Leicester City. 0-0.
Well, there's the warning sign, isn't it? Newcastle just switched off for a second shot, just let the ball run past them. Dakar's always going to be playing on the shoulder, just like Vardy does, looking for anything that's breaking down the sides of the centre halves, and he was aware. And soon as the ball breaks to him, 4 or 5 Leicester players at the top end of the pitch really, really quickly, and you can see what their tactic is tonight. Keep the ball, keep it with possession, or try and counter-attack the opposition with Dakar.
Late challenge by the aforementioned Daka on Sven Botman, and Newcastle have a free kick just outside their own penalty area. Newcastle, whose defeat last match against Sheffield Wednesday was only their second loss this season in all competitions. 15 games they've gone unbeaten. First loss since the end of August, 2-1 at Liverpool, and as you mentioned on 5 Live earlier, Steve, that in and itself was contentious, and a very, very late goal. 98th minute winner there for Liverpool as Guimaraes, lovely turn midway through the Leicester half, plays it forward to Callum Wilson. Joe Linton's ahead of him. Callum Wilson dinks it forward. Guimaraes has it once more, tried to send it out to the right hand side, looking for Almiron, picked up by Newcastle, and Almiron now has it right hand side of the penalty area, twisting and turning up against Luke Thomas, who stands up well. So Trippier swings it in high, it's headed up by Castagna, helped away out for a throw, and Newcastle's pressure is relentless, but good defending by Leicester.
Well, it's good defending by Leicester, but it's got to be Barnes is playing so narrow because he's trying to stay near Daka, who gets isolated at the top end of the pitch, who's trying to get him sitting there. Perez is doing the same, but that leaves so many spaces out in the wide area, and we spoke about it again. If you look at, we're just speaking about now, Trippier's on the right side of there is a right back, and he's walking into Leicester City's half, and he's 40 yards from goal, and he's got no pressure on him whatsoever, because Barnes is trying to play really high next to Dakar, and there's so much space for him to run into. And we keep talking about Newcastle being right side dominant. That's where the goals come from. It's a real gamble from Leicester and what they're trying to do.
Newcastle in possession, just inside their own half, with Sven Botman, plays it forward to Sean Longstaff, just inside the centre circle. Nice turn in field now by Dan Burn down the left hand side, little footing from Perez, but Burn squeezes it to Joe Linton and gets it back once more. Burn will send it centrally, Almiron lays it off to Trippier. Bodies in the area for Newcastle. Amati gets there first though and heads it out of the penalty area from Trippier's delivery. Almiron dispossessed on the edge of the D, and Perez will pick it up and play it back to Luke Thomas, who's under some pressure from Callum Wilson. Plays it forward though, flicked on by Perez, but Leicester City just cannot get into the Newcastle half at the moment.
No, I'd like to see, we just talked about Newcastle and their dominance on the right hand side, and here we go again, and Barnes is just getting played far too high. It's too easy.
Nice turn from Callum Wilson. Newcastle really pressing. Wilson plays it forward to Almiron. Got a little nudge there from Castagna. Decides not to go down. Pulls it back to Trippier. Poor ball from Trippier. He's saying to Longstaff, look, I know where that's going. You need to anticipate that. As Harvey Barnes can't quite play it away. Leicester do almost retain possession, but Daka won't receive that pass on the left-hand side, and Newcastle get things going again quickly. 13 minutes gone. 0-0 at St James's Park on 5 Sports Extra. Steve Stone.
Well, the danger is that Newcastle think this is too easy and slow the tempo down and just give Leicester that little inclination that they can get something from this game. Newcastle need to keep on the front foot, the tempo that they're playing at the minute, keep that ball going down that right hand side, put the ball in front of Trippier. A couple of times it's been just behind him. He needs to deliver first time going into the box.
Tielemans steals possession, plays it forward to Perez outside the area, drives straight into the arms of Pope.
And that's the danger we just talked about, just switching off and just making sure that your concentration levels, you played a Premier League football team, they're going to have some spell at some stage.
Here goes Harvey Barnes, tried the 1-2 with Daka, well intercepted by Fabian Schär, and Trippier will play it forward to Guimaraes. Laid off to Wilson, was a little push there was by Amati, and Newcastle have a free kick midway inside their own half. 0-0.
From the expectance from the stadium, so from the fans, they just think it's a matter of time. But we've been in the game long enough to know that you need to score when you're on top, and they've had 17 minutes now, 14, 15 minutes of being on top, and they haven't scored. They've had 4 or 5 great chances.
Coming forward again down the left-hand side, the shot driven in just wide by Guimaraes again. He hit that with such venom. Beautifully worked by Newcastle, but again the back of the Leicester net does not ripple.
Well, the only thing they didn't do there was they didn't make the goalkeeper work. I don't think the goalkeeper's made a save yet. I think they've had 6 chances and he hasn't had a save to make. Wide, nearly, close. That's not how you score in a football match. You've got to hit the target. I mean, it was probably a foot wide and he's trying to smash it from 18 yards out. He's trying to blast it in there. You can see players caress things in from 18 yards out. Use defenders in front of them to bend it around it. Now listen, I wasn't the best finisher in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but Bruno Guimaraes is, and I was expecting better from him there, and I would be expecting some better finishing so far from Newcastle. 6 chances they've had, not worked the goalkeeper.
Steve Stone, former England and Aston Villa midfielder, with us here on 5 Sports Extra as Leicester win the header midway through their own half with Ndidi out to the left hand side. Yes, caressed is certainly not a word I'd use for either of those Guimaraes efforts. Venom, power, drive, adrenaline, but yes, perhaps not quite the caressed composure.
I think that's how the game is at the minute. Every time Newcastle try to drive forward, there's a sense of the need to score and a little bit of anxiety in their play in front of goal. You know, they're so desperate to score, to get that first goal because of the occasion. They know it's not a league match. They know this is an opportunity.
Quarter-finals of the Carabao Cup here on 5 Sports Extra as Callum Wilson picks it up on the edge of the area. Amati just does enough and clears it away, but it will spin back out to Wilson on this left-hand side. Plays it back looking for Longstaff. Joelinton will trap it. Perez will get a foot in, sends it out for a Newcastle throw. A reminder, over on 5 Live you can listen to Manchester United against Charlton in the other League Cup quarter-final that is going on this evening. It's Joelinton turns away under pressure and plays it all the way back to Guimaraes. And now Fabian Schär on the halfway line. Longstaff, central position midway through the Leicester half, lays it off to Willock, and now Byrne and Joelinton. Down the left they go, Newcastle, and Willock picks it up, ball into the penalty area, left-footed, it's over the head of Wilson. Thomas wins the header, sent back forward by Trippier, but won't be kept in by Almiron, and Leicester City have another goal kick. We have 2 League Cup quarter-finals coming up for you tomorrow as well. Southampton against Manchester City, that's on 5 Live, and Nottingham Forest taking on Wolves will be on 5 Sports Extra.
It's nice from Newcastle down this left-hand side for a change. Couple of good opportunities, good little clips in the box. Joelinton and Willock, good running power, running forward, driving off the ball. But again, Leicester here just getting pressed and trying to play out from the back and getting caught on many opportunities. The ball's going out of play there, and you can guarantee they'll try and slow the game down and try and slow the tempo of this crowd and the expectation that's around the stadium at the minute.
Yep, Leicester really under the cosh here in the opening 17.5 minutes, but it is still goalless, given that they were 2-0 down inside 7 minutes when they played each other in the league on Boxing Day. I think Brendan Rodgers will see that as an improvement, but Newcastle very much have been on top. Joelinton's won a free kick midway through the Leicester half. Just about level with that penalty area line on the left-hand side, and another chance, Steve Stone, for Newcastle to test Leicester from a set piece.
Well, Leicester have been renowned over the last season and a half to have had difficulty, should we say, especially from corners. I'm not so sure about lateral free kicks or wide free kicks coming to the box. I don't know about that, but I know from corners they've really struggled. They've got a very high line here at the minute, and they're trying to keep Newcastle's big guys, who are all around the back at the minute, out the box, out away the danger area. Ward, the goalkeeper's on his 6-yard box, trying to cut those distances down in case Trippier whips one right on top of him there. But we're hoping the delivery, from a Newcastle point of view, is going to be a good one.
So Kieran Trippier over this for Newcastle, swings it in right-footed. It is a good delivery. It's headed away. Pinball in the area though. Great save by Danny Ward. Fantastic. Pushes it away for a Newcastle corner, I should say. What an opening that was. And Newcastle coming close to breaking the deadlock. Sean Longstaff again.
It was a fabulous opportunity. It was a fabulous ball into the box to start with from Trippier. Didn't try and put too much pace on it, just put it into a great area. He drops down to Longstaff. Again, you didn't see the confidence in him to put it in the back of the net, did you? At least they hit the target, and a great save.
Well, he has scored once this season. He's had chances in this match. Can Newcastle fashion another one from this corner? 0-0. Joe Linton's on the move inside the penalty area. Newcastle thinking about taking a short corner here, but they're saying that Harvey Barnes isn't far enough away, so it will be whipped into that crowded 6-yard box. Shares head, Medic sends it wide. Leicester goal kick, 0-0.
Yeah, just go back to Longstaff. In terms of his form this season's been excellent. He's one of those players that's really improved. He played a deeper role probably under the last couple of managers, and probably I think it was under Steve Bruce, didn't probably play as much. Don't know whether that was because of injuries or just the fact that he couldn't get in the team. Before that, in Benitez as well, he did play more of a holding midfield player role, was more of the guy that got on the ball and made play happen and dictated. Now he's playing in a number 8 role. He's further forward, he's pressing, he's using his energy, and he's been terrific this season with that. If he could just add a couple of more goals to his game, he becomes a complete midfield player in a number 8 position.
Forward from Danny Ward, but Leicester lose out again. They haven't got anywhere near the Newcastle penalty area in the last 5-10 minutes or so. Midway point almost of the first half here on 5 Sports Extra, and somehow still it's 0-0.
But you know what I think they're actually doing in Brendan Rodgers, and it might turn out to be a really clever tactic, that he's obviously weathering the storm, and he realised that Newcastle are going to create chances, and he's got the 4 across the back, and he's got his 2 holding midfield players with Tielemans sort of holding in front of him. But when the ball does break, they have got 4 at the top end of the pitch who are nearly cheating, and they're probably going to try and use that tactic to counter-attack Newcastle. Yeah, I mean, Perez is not even attempting to get behind the ball. Barnes is sometimes behind it. Albrighton's behind it at the minute because Newcastle have had possession for a period of time. But really, when Leicester have got the ball, them 4 right at the top end of the pitch, and they're just waiting for a counter-attack to break through them. And it might be genius. You never know.
Newcastle in possession, building down this left-hand side with Willock. Burners on the overlap. Willock opts to go central instead, and Sven Botman swings it forward to Longstaff out to the right-hand side, and Almiron. Trippier on the overlap. Here is Trippier, dinks the ball in. The header is blocked and can't quite be scrambled in again by Longstaff. Ward got there first. Again, it's good goalkeeping from Leicester's number 1.
Well, it's good goalkeeping, but again, I think Newcastle should probably take the opportunity. It goes from one side of the pitch, this left-hand side. Willock comes into Dan Burn, gets it out to a wide area. Great ball in by Trippier, picks somebody out, just doesn't whiz it into along the 6-yard box, cuts it back. I thought again Longstaff arriving late was going to be the one that got on it, but he's probably put the centre forward off. Callum Wilson, he's just got in his way, but another good save. At least they've hit the target. That's 8 good chances they've had so far. Leicester have had a chance from Perez from distance, and probably a little through ball from Daka, which Pope cut out quite easily. Newcastle are in the ascendancy, definitely, and Leicester just need to weather this storm. I don't know how long they can continue to give chances away to quality opposition.
Well, Newcastle almost giving the ball away outside their own penalty area, but it ricochets back off Ndidi and out for a Newcastle goal kick. And just looking at this Leicester formation, it's one of those where Albrighton, he's having a busy evening, isn't he? Because when Newcastle come forward, Leicester are often dropping into a back 5, although Castagna at the moment is in the 4. But now he just drops back to make it a bit more of a 3, and that means Albrighton can drop back if Newcastle get the bodies behind the ball. But then suddenly, as soon as Leicester are in possession, Albrighton's up on the right wing.
well, Albrighton's done that his whole career. player. That's just the honesty that he's got. I don't know if his manager actually wants him to do that, because on the other side of the pitch, Barnes is not even trying to get back. He's just staying up alongside Perez and Daka. So it might be that Albrighton's not being told to get back, but he's just being honest, like he's always has been, being that good professional. He's trying to double up, but even he's getting caught out at times.
Oh, Joelinton almost getting through Albrighton and Castagna there. The clearance away from Leicester is blocked by Willock. Joelinton not happy there with referee Darren England, felt that he was brought down, but Leicester have the ball and play it up towards halfway. Here's Harvey Barnes, lays it off to Jose Perez. Good ball to find Daka, but as the black and white shirts get back still, Daka only midway through the Newcastle half. Out to the right hand side now, Leicester making some headway with Albrighton, and the ball is cleared away off Joelinton, another who will always give his all for the team, this time in a black and white shirt rather than the blue of Albrighton and Leicester City. Leicester in their home kit, incidentally, all blue. Newcastle in the black and white shirts, the black shorts and the black socks. Leicester City it is with the throw for Castagna, deep in Newcastle territory. Goalless here on 5 Sports Extra midway through the first half. Here is Amati, plays it in fields to Ndidi, out to the right hand side, and Castagna, and just won't stick for Leicester. Ndidi gets a foot in, but it's out for a throw to Newcastle midway through their own half.
I was just watching a replay on my monitor there from the other game, and I'm sure Manchester United have just got 1-0 up, if that's what I'm seeing. So good early goal for them. Tough night now for Charlton. Got to stick at it, haven't they? And very, very similar to here in terms of Newcastle were to get that early goal. You could sense it could be a tough night for Leicester. But the longer they stay in the game, more experience that some of these players have got and the manager's got. And I've seen them do this against Manchester City. I did a game for 5 Live when Manchester City came, and he just dropped right back, got everybody behind the ball and tried to stay in the game, and it nearly worked. He actually had chance after chance in the last 10-15 minutes when he opened up and went for it. He ended up getting beat 1-0, but it was by no means a terrible performance. It was a good tactical masterclass by Brendan, as you would expect. And this is something he might be thinking about tonight, but he needs to get probably more men behind the ball at times. The wide areas are way too open at the minute, but he knows that.
Newcastle in possession on the halfway line. Yes, Steve Stone bringing you your goal update service here on 5 Sports Extra. Anthony scoring for Manchester United against League One Charlton in tonight's other Carabao Cup quarter-final. You can listen to that over on 5 Live. We are very much glad to have your company here on 5 Sports Extra. As Newcastle in possession, 0-0 with Leicester. 25 minutes played. Newcastle fizzing the ball all the way back to Nick Pope inside his own penalty area, and Botman under a bit of pressure from Daka will turn and spin and send it back to Pope, all in bright orange once more, just outside his own 6-yard box. Again, Daka will close down, so Pope sends it long over the halfway line. Trippier ducks out of the way, and Trippier is judged to have committed the foul there, and it will be a free kick to Leicester midway inside their own half. Leicester, whose victory last match against Gillingham ended a 3-match losing run in all competitions. It's been a strange season, Leicester, hasn't it? Yeah. Really struggled at the start. They'd won their previous 4 without conceding, before then losing the 3 in the Premier League after the World Cup. But what do you make of them this season as they have a free kick midway inside their own half?
Well, obviously inconsistent, and it's the inconsistencies come from the defensive mistakes. Faz, who's come into the team after a terrible start to the season, defensively they just looked poor. They didn't have any real money to spend. They lost the boy to Chelsea, which was a massive loss for them. Of course it was, and some other players were injured as well. So I think it's been a real difficult start for Brendan and the Leicester fans to probably take and watch what's been going on. But there's been circumstances why it's happened. Now, they come back from the World Cup and you thought, right, they're back on track. But again, defensive errors have cost them, and they played some top teams in that. You know, Fulham are no mugs, by the way. What are Fulham, 7th or 8th at the minute, having a great season. Newcastle blew them away in the first 15 minutes, and of course you go into an improving Manchester United. It's not an easy 3 games to come back from the World Cup, but when you still say they've been beaten in the last 3 in the Premier League, it still doesn't read too well. It still doesn't go down too well. Supporters don't want to hear that.
Newcastle in possession on the halfway line. Callum Wilson is challenged by the aforementioned Wout Faes and fouled by the aforementioned Wout Faes, and Newcastle have a free kick midway inside the Leicester half, just in from the left hand side of that penalty line.
It's good to see somebody be physical though. Newcastle have they've had everything their own way so far. They've been able to play at will, be able to create chances at will, and that's the first time anybody from Leicester has thought, no, I'm going to be physical, I'm just going to put my foot in there, and you can't have it your own way. And Brendan would probably like that. The disappointing thing from his point of view is though he's give a free kick away, another lateral in a dangerous area, exactly the same place from where they nearly scored for before with Longstaff's opportunity.
So it's not Trippier standing over this one, it's Bruno Guimaraes. Midway through the Leicester half, the spray is out, but Jose Perez has decided he wants to stand a few yards back from that curved line. So Guimaraes plays it to Trippier, who now delivers it into the penalty area. Newcastle trying something a little bit different. Byrne got his head on it, but it loops up and into the arms of Danny Ward inside his own 6-yard box. Goalless.
Yeah, well, you could tell they were going to try something different because Trippier wasn't taking it. Obviously, Bruno then knocks it sideways to Trippier, who then tries the diagonal back to the back post to try and isolate Dan Byrne and Joe Linton with some of the smaller guys on the Leicester team. And it worked, but he just didn't quite get enough on it. And Leicester have been resolute in the defending. You know, so far you'd go, yeah, okay, I'm happy with the defending. What's going on in terms of that back four? In terms of obviously too much space in between the lines, as we spoke about.
Brilliant run by Castagna down the right hand side, plays in Daka, flag stays down. Daka tried to square and it's cleared away by Trippier. He was looking for the run of Harvey Barnes on the corner of the 6-yard box. Oh, why didn't he pull the trigger, Patson Daka? Leicester have got it back midway through the Newcastle half, and incidentally we have no VAR. Now of course the official could later put up the flag, but no VAR, no second chances for the officials as it were. Comes in the semi-finals in the League Cup, and Leicester City with all Brighton's ball, win a throw deep in Newcastle territory. Best chance of the half. Daka's got to shoot there, hasn't he?
Oh, Daka's got to pull the trigger. He's tried to be unselfish, but as you're a centre forward and your job is to score goals, you have to pull the trigger when you're 9, 10, 11 yards out. What I would say on this right hand side, first time I think it was all Brighton that skipped past Dan Byrne just with a little ricochet, just got a little bit of luck with it, drove in. I actually thought Daka was just offside, just didn't hold his run long enough. But like you say, we don't have VAR, so you've got to take it on to a finish. Thing is, he didn't even try and finish. That's the thing that would be so disappointing from that move. You got Vardy in that position. There is no way he's trying to pass that ball.
Newcastle with the free kick on halfway. It would have been interesting, wouldn't it, to see if the flag had gone up, because there's no reason to delay. If you think it's offside and there's no VAR, but you wonder if the officials are so conditioned to just let the move play through. But no reason to do that if we don't have another chance to look at it. You've got to referee it as you see it. And it might have been, had Daka stuck that away, that Leicester City, for all Newcastle's pressure, for all of their chances, would have been 1-0 up with half an hour gone. But it's still goalless here on 5 Sports Extra at St James's Park. Short ball out from Ward, just about reaches Fass, who then turns nicely away from Almiron, who's closing him down. But Fass can't take too much time on this as Almiron goes sliding in, and Leicester try and play it forward and win the free kick belatedly. But Almiron again, the applause around St James's Park. It's endeavour, and do you know what? We can talk about the takeover and all the off-field stories about that as well. But Almiron's been a player that's given everything to Newcastle since he arrived, and it's coming together for him this season in terms of goals. He's so loved here, and I think these fans are just so delighted to just see how he's flourishing at the moment under Eddie Howe.
Yeah, I think they've willed him to do well, haven't they? I mean, they were so disappointed the fact that when he got in front of goal on many occasions, he did struggle. He looked like he wasn't that man that was confident, that believed in himself. And it was a real shame to see, because you're right, everybody loved his work rate, loved what he did for the team, but looked like he didn't have that finishing ability or creative ability either. Now he seems to have both, because the rest of the team's confident. Now he's got to follow up the first half of the season, what he's done on the second half of the season, to make it a really good season for him.
Brilliant ball by Trippier over the top. Callum Wilson will try and chase it. Well, almost brilliant ball by Trippier. Do you know what? If that's a fit Wilson, does he get there?
I don't know whether he actually thought the ball was it was just going to hold up on the turf. It just skidded away, then skidded again. But he looked like he didn't really want to run after that, did he? At full pace, it was as if like he was holding back and didn't want to go. That was a 40, 50, 60 yard run from Wilson chasing that ball. And we all know about the injury that he's had this season, and he keeps the hamstrings, or whatever it is that he's got, keep giving him trouble from time to time. So it must be in his mind. You've got to say that. I think if the ball was in front of the goal and he got slid down the side of the centre off, he's getting after that.
Leicester in possession, 0-0 here on 5 Sports Extras. Castagna plays the ball forward and Pope comes out right to the edge of his own penalty area and gathers and bowls it out underarm to Cher, still inside his own box. Over the halfway line he goes, but that one is easily dealt with by Leicester. Callum Wilson does applaud, but it's all the way through to Danny Ward, and we're still goalless. 32 minutes gone.
Well, every time Leicester have tried to go forward, and every time they've tried to play something through there. You've got Daka on the shoulder. He's making those willing runs. They're few and far between. But Pope's been in some great starting positions. He's always been right on the edge of his box. He's been perfect so far.
Over the top, Leicester go though, and again Nick Pope got that spot on. That was a bit more risky as he blocked the shot from Harvey Barnes. Tielemans on the stretch, can't control, does come back to Tielemans, edge of the D, shot deflected over Leicester corner. This is their best spell of the game.
It was the best spell of the game because Newcastle and the fans have just gone a little bit flat. Newcastle have just been trying to play the ball long on a couple of occasions. Leicester have pressed really well in terms of getting Bruno, getting on top of him, making sure he doesn't dictate the game. And Leicester are having 5 or 10 minutes where you're thinking, okay, so they're back in the game. We've talked about it so many times. There's no way a Premier League team, playing another Premier League team, dominates completely for 90 minutes. There's always an opportunity when the opposition have these opportunities and these spells where they come into the game. And this is Leicester's at the minute. Newcastle haven't finished them off, which they should have done.
They've had the chances again, Newcastle. It's been the recent story for them. They haven't taken them. Long way to go in this game, but it's Leicester City with the corner. Drifted in by Albrighton. Bit too much power on it. Indeed, he heads it back into the penalty area. Cleared away by Newcastle. Harvey Barnes will chest it down and send it back to Thomas on the edge of the centre circle. And now Tielemans, he's been quiet so far, but plays the ball down the left-hand side to Jose Perez, who does well under pressure to steer it back to Tielemans. He plays the ball into the area. Oh, good delivery. Fizzed past Dan Burn on the edge of the 6-yard box. In fact, he just got his tall head to that Burn, and it's gone out for another Leicester City corner.
Well, Perez just got himself a little bit of a tangle for Leicester on that left-hand side. Managed to wriggle out of it, plays it back to Tielemans, and he's only got one thought. As soon as he's got that ball in his right foot from that angle on that left-hand side, he's going to whip one into a decent area. Real good quality. And Dan Burn just lost himself for a minute, didn't he? Just lost his position.
Here goes Mark Albrighton then. Dangerous ball in. It's just over the head of Ndidi on the edge of the 6-yard box. Tielemans picks it up on the edge of the area, but he's adjudged to have committed the foul. And a little bit of afters there between Trippier, who wasn't the man fouled at all. It was Bruno Guimaraes, but Tielemans moves swiftly away, and Darren England just lets things simmer down, and Newcastle have the free kick just outside their own penalty area. 0-0. 10 minutes to play in this first half as Newcastle over the top looking for the run of Joe Willock, who suddenly has space down this left hand side. He's being pursued by Castagna. Wilson is in the centre. Almiron is there as well. Nice move by Willock to take it down to the byline. Plays it off Castagna. Newcastle corner.
Well, Leicester had 3 good chances before that. I've got to say the ball in before for the corner. I think indeed he's got to do better. He's running in. He's lost his man. He looks like he's got a free header. He's coming onto it. Gets nowhere near the ball and misses the flight of it completely. Great opportunity from about 12 yards out. Then on the other hand, great little bit of movement from Willock. Goes towards the ball, spins in behind like any good winger, like a Ryan Giggs from back in the day, and creates some havoc. And Newcastle then become back on top just from a good bit of movement.
So Kieran Trippier places the ball down. They do play it short this time. Almiron back to Trippier, whips it in right footed. Good delivery. Guimaraes is there, heads it back across. The header is flicked on, flicked back across, and Leicester just about get it away. Comes to Share on the penalty spot. A scramble, and finally a blue foot makes significant contact, and Patson Daka clears for Leicester City. Oh, he's cleaned out there. That'll be a free kick. It's just inside the Newcastle half, but it will be a yellow card, I'm sure, into the bargain, because Daka was off and away there. Now, what's Darren England going to decide to do? It is a yellow card belatedly for Sean Longstaff, who I think, Steve Stone, that's the definition of taking one for the team.
Yes, definitely. I've got to say, a fabulous routine from Newcastle for the free kick. Really inventive. Little short one, dragging all the Leicester players in, playing around the back. But what good defending by everybody in the Leicester team there. They had so many men around the ball when it came back in the box. They realised as soon as it went out the back post that he's not going to score from there. He's going to have to head it back across the goal. And Leicester players, all the defenders, midfield players, and people who were in the box all reacted incredibly well to make sure that they were the ones that were first to the ball. They were going to get their head on it. And Newcastle had one man in there, and that's how it's been so far.
Now, Perez has gone down, clutching his face. Harvey Barnes can't keep hold of it for Leicester on the left-hand side. Newcastle come forward, play it through the middle, looking for Wilson, too much on it. Perez is gradually getting to his feet. A few boos ring around St James's Park for the man who spent 5 years here, made almost 200 appearances for Newcastle. as the ball is played forward for Leicester. Tielemans looking to win it, and the throw was given by the official who was right there, but referee Darren England has given the free kick to Newcastle, which Joe Linton takes quickly as Newcastle work it out to the right hand side. 0-0, 8 minutes to go until half time here on 5 Sports Extra. In the other League Cup quarter final, Manchester United still leading Charlton of League One at Old Trafford by a goal to nil. That's a clear shove over by Dan Burn on Mark Albrighton. And the yellow card is out again. Well, St James's Park is complaining, but I think for the cynicism of it, I'm not sure Dan Burn can, let alone that Albrighton's in a good position, just about to get over the halfway line. But come on, you can't just push somebody over. No,
you can't push them over. It is a yellow card. It's a very soft challenge from him, but Albrighton's away and free. He's got 60 yards of grass in front of him to run into, with probably nobody coming across to challenge him. So Dan Burns obviously had to take one for the team again. Albrighton goes down very easily, but he's got every right to go down. Newcastle need to get back to, actually they've been going long a lot to Callum Wilson in the last sort of 5-10 minutes. Every time they've got it, Callum's been stretching the pitch and taking those two centre halves of Leicester deep, which then creates loads of space in between the lines, in between Tielemans and Ndidi, and they just need to make sure they just keep that passing just a little bit shorter, because they get loads of success with it.
Brendan Rodgers barking instructions inside his technical area as Newcastle win a throw. He was screaming there. I couldn't quite see his angle. It was either at Amati or Fass who played a poor ball out to Castagna, but he wants to see improvement from his side. But Steve Stone was saying earlier they need to weather the storm. So far that's what Leicester have done. 6 minutes thus added time to play in this first half, 0-0, and they've grown into the game in an attacking sense as well. But Newcastle still very much on top in terms of the overall balance of play as Fass clears forward. Harvey Barnes goes, Trippier there, goodness me, pushes Harvey Barnes over. Referee lets play go on, and Trippier just had a bit of a swipe there. Nick Pope clears away, out of play, Leicester throw. He's fortunate there, Trippier, that didn't make contact, because that's an off the ball and red card.
Well, what's happened is he's went really physical on the challenge to start with. He's tried to win the ball over the top of the... Was it Barnes? Yeah, it was Barnes. And then he's had a little lash out at him. And we know Barnes is physical as well. Barnes is probably the most physical wide man in the league, to be fair. Hard running player. Will give as good as he gets. And Trippier's obviously thought he needs to be physical back with him on this occasion. But really lucky to get away with that.
Yeah, really, really running a risk there. Had that made contact, it didn't, and that's what I think saved Kieran Trippier as the ball is forward looking for Harvey Barnes, cleared away by Cher. Guimaraes wins the header just inside his own half, and Trippier will send it long. Wilson brings it down out to Miguel Almiron, right hand side, who will pick up the central position with Wilson out there as well. He now drifts in as Almiron plays it forward to Guimaraes, went for the 1-2. Almiron down to the byline, tried to get it across, can't quite make the contact, the Paraguayan, and it's behind for a Leicester goal kick, 0-0.
Yeah, well, it's the short play again. It's up to Wilson. Nice little short ball up to him. He gets a hold of it. Longstaff then runs in behind Wilson to try and take some midfield play with him. Creates space for all the other midfield players around him. And Newcastle, every time they go short and try to keep the ball and work the ball down that right hand side, they're really, really dangerous. Going long, of course, at times you can't always play in front of teams. You have to stretch them and you have to back them off. That's a given. You have to do that when you play against anybody. But Newcastle's success at the minute has come by playing some really, really good incisive football in between Leicester, and Leicester are really struggling to deal with it. Would like to say though, Leicester, we've talked about, they've weathered the storm. They've done really well in terms of weathering it. Newcastle should have finished them off in the first 10-15 minutes, but they haven't. Leicester's still in the game. Premier League team, had 2 or 3 opportunities, we'll say. Not clear cut, but it'll give them enough to go, we're still in the game. We stay here for 60 minutes. There'll be opportunities to maybe change 1 or 2. And you never know, the chances might come because they're looking for counter-attacks.
Willock's done well on the halfway line, but the ball forward is just a bit too strong for Almiron, and he limped back onto the pitch, Almiron, after failing to prevent that Leicester goal kick, and he's not moving 100% freely at the moment, and it's just one of those that probably he'll just say, Joe, just not until half time, just either play it to feet, don't play me when I've got to chase, because I've just got to ease myself back in physically.
Almiron can't help himself but running behind. He just can't stop running, doesn't matter whether he gets hurt or not. Again, Faz tonight, the centre half for Leicester, been really impressed by him. He's looked calm and assured on the ball. I think he scored a couple of own goals at Manchester United, but every time I've seen him play for Leicester so far, I've always thought that he's been somebody who's added some real quality and steel to the team and knows what he's doing in there, organises others around him. and he's been a real plus so far.
Now Jose Perez has gone down, and here come the boos from St James's Park, belatedly, because Leicester City have won a free kick just inside the Newcastle half. 0-0, 3 minutes plus added time to go in the first half. And the other League Cup quarter-final this evening, Manchester United still leading Charlton of League One by a goal to nil at Old Trafford as Leicester send the ball forward. It's headed away by Fabian Schär. We talk about weathering the storm. I think we've weathered the storm, Steve.
Yeah.
We thought it would chuck it down here in the northeast this evening, but the moon is out. Clear skies on a cold night as Newcastle. Almiron down the right-hand side, drives the shot in, and it's straight at Danny Ward on the angle.
Well, he's picked the wrong option there. Great little bit of skill to get past Thomas. Driving into the box, he takes it way too early. He's got loads of options, but the form he's in at the minute and the confidence that he's got, sometimes you don't mind a player having a shot, even from that angle, but probably the wrong option.
Now Guimaraes almost managed to win that ball back from Wilfred Ndidi midway through the Leicester half, but in the end just fouled him, and so it will be a free kick to Leicester midway through their own half. Yes, 9 goals this season for Miguel Almiron, his last in the 3-0 victory against Leicester on Boxing Day 4 games ago. But it's one of those, we were talking, Steve, before the match about how much that game would play into this one, and Newcastle started this game as well. The difference is they didn't find the opening 2 goals in 7 minutes, 3 goals in 32, and we're still 0-0, and Leicester have done what Brendan Rodgers wanted if Newcastle started as well as they did. But Joe Willock down this left hand side for Newcastle, approaching the penalty area, plays it in field to Bruno Guimaraes. Willock's continued his run and just can't trap the ball 12 yards out, and it rolls through to Danny Ward.
Well, we're talking about players running forward and busting a gut to try and break lines and get him behind, and Wilson's been the one doing that, but Willock's just made a great run in behind, or in between and in behind. Bruno's found him with a lovely little ball. Willock just couldn't quite get on the end of it.
Lovely ball forward to Callum Wilson, edge of the penalty area, right hand side, up against Daniel Amati. The black and white shirts are arriving, will be left and almost guided in on the edge of the area. Bruno Guimaraes was with the final shot, tipped behind by Danny Ward. Oh, they were queuing up there, and again Ward's made a decent stop. It's a Newcastle corner.
Well, it's another slide ball just down the sides of the centre off for Callum Wilson to use his pace down the side. Couldn't quite get into a position to get a shot off, has to come back in. Finds Bruno, and this time Bruno doesn't use the power because it's not really positioned to do that. Tries to slide one down the outside and use the defender to curl it round. Good save from Ward again, who's actually been pivotal in the last sort of 20 minutes. He made some really good saves. Yeah,
he's had a good game. That was more of a caress from Bruno Guimaraes as the corner is swung in and headed across goal, across the edge of the 6-yard box in truth. By a Newcastle head, spins out to Bruno Guimaraes, left hand side. He's there with Tielemans, and Tielemans steps in and Guimaraes gets past him, does brilliantly there, the Brazilian, pulls it back to his compatriot Joe Linton, who lays it off to Joe Willock, space over on the right hand side, and Willock looks to find it, just will be kept in by Trippier as we enter 1 minute stoppage time. Patson Daka comes across well, throw to Newcastle, Fabian Schär takes it quickly, edge of the penalty area, Newcastle go, Jose Perez misses the clearance, but the offside flag is up, and it will be a free kick to Leicester City as Almiron goes down and the chance dissipates for Newcastle United. 0-0.
Well, there's only 1 minute of stoppage time or injury time being put up by the 4th official just down here on this left hand side when Bruno was teasing Tielemans. I actually thought it probably would have been better from a Newcastle point of view if the referee had actually given the foul. It was in a dangerous position, and Trippier with the quality he's got to drift one in. It was about 3 or 4 yards outside the 18-yard box on this left-hand side, and Newcastle didn't make the most of it.
Ball goes out of play for a Leicester City throw, but there is no time to take it. Half-time at St James's Park. Newcastle United 0, Leicester City 0 in this Carabao Cup quarter-final. And Steve Stone, from a Newcastle perspective, it's same old in terms of the last few games. They've had the chances, they've not taken them, and again, they're facing a goalkeeper who's had a good game.
Well, the goalkeeper's done amazingly well, and I mean, they're probably stops that he would expect to make, but still he's got a save, and he's very confident in what he tried to do. What I would say in this game, as opposed to the last 2 or 3 games, was these have been clear-cut chances in front of goal. They've been players who have been 6, 7, 10, 12 yards out. You're expecting at least to hit the target. The first 5 or 6 efforts that they had at goal, nothing hit the target. After that, they started the target, they should have scored, but the goalkeeper saved them. They'll be disappointed, really, really disappointed the fact that they're going into this game 0-0. And Leicester will be galvanised by the performance. They'll be galvanised by the fact that Newcastle can't score, and that they've created a couple of opportunities, not just on the counter-attack, but from a set play as well. And they'll give them some belief to go into the second half. This is a cup tie. This is a cup tie. Anything can happen.
45 minutes, and if we're still level, it's straight to penalties. No extra time in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, but still we have the whole second half to come here on 5 Sports Extra. Goalless at the break at St James's Park. So for half-time, let's rejoin 5 Live and find out whether Manchester United are still leading 1-0 at Old Trafford against League One Charlton.
Anthony has a sight of goal, instead plays it out towards Wan-Bissaka, chips over the cross, Innis heads it away for Charlton, drops towards Garnacho, left corner of the area, back towards Malacia, trying to get the shot away. They're being patient. Fred, the white shirts back behind the ball, cleared away by Clare, up towards Leeburn. They're very, very deep though at Charlton at the moment. Comes out towards McTominay, working hard. Dobson goes into the challenge, goes away from him. And then they manage to get it out towards Morgan on that far side. If they can just hold it up, they'll get a throw. Throw on that right-hand side for Charlton. As you say, Leon, they're having to work so hard. And the concentration levels must be so high too, as the half-time whistle sounds.
Yeah, it's been a difficult half for Charlton. Defensively, no doubt about that. Manchester United have played pretty well. They've showed good patience. They've been raising the tempo when they've had the opportunity. They've created a number of chances and scored that one from Anthony. But Charlton are still in the game. Charlton have worked hard defensively. Charlton have, last 5 minutes of the game, have just started to break them much better, pick the right passes, and I'm sure that's the kind of positive message that Dean Holdenough will be saying to his team at half-time.
Well, it was a fine curling goal from Anthony that gave Manchester United the lead. It was a curling effort from the right corner of the edge of the area, left-footed, gave the keeper no chance. Since then, they came close to extending it through a Fred free kick that rattled the right-hand post. But at half-time, here at Old Trafford, Kelly, it's Manchester United 1, Charlton Athletic 0.
Deno, thank you very much. Ian Dennis and Leon Osman at Old Trafford for us. Manchester United are leading, and it's Anthony yet again, Leon, who's on the score sheet for them.
Yes, and it's a trademark, what is becoming a trademark goal from getting the ball on the right-hand side of the Manchester United attack, taking a touch, coming in onto that left foot, setting himself and putting it in the far top corner. And, you know, Manchester United have actually been a lot better down the other side of the field, but because of how effective that's been, they've dragged so many Charlton players across to try and stop them attacking in that avenue, that when they then filter the ball back to Anthony, he's got all the time he needs to pick his spot. And, you know, the goal was absolutely terrific.
Amazing what rumours of signing a striker can do for your goal scorers, as far as Eric Ten Hag is concerned. The one genuine concern for him might be the injury to Dalot, who's gone off.
Yeah, you don't want to pick up any injuries in these games, and Dalot's been playing pretty well this season, so it will be a concern. It didn't seem to be one where he's running full out and pulls up immediately. They're the ones that you really worry about. There was no seemingly obvious contact injury, so maybe it's something that came on slowly, and using his experience, he's got himself off before it gets too severe. That's certainly what his manager will be hoping.
And while Manchester United are in front in this game, it's not like there hasn't been a threat from Charlton. Have you seen what you expected to in this?
I was, well, as a neutral, you're hoping that Charlton can work themselves up the pitch a little bit better than they have done, so that they can then use Leeburn in the way he wants to be used, getting deliveries into the top end of into the penalty area for him to attack with his head. But it's been a little bit more counter-attack from Charlton, and they were choosing the wrong options for a good 30-35 minutes in this game. But just the last 5 or 10 minutes, they've started to be able to attack with numbers, and they've started to pick the right passing, and despite them tiring, they've actually been more effective in that period.
Thank you very much to Leon Osman and Ian Dennis. We'll be back at Old Trafford for the second half of that EFL Cup quarter-final. The other quarter-final taking place tonight is at St James's Park. Commentary of that one on Sports Extra. It's Newcastle United against Leicester. Chris Coles is our reporter at the game. How this is goalless, I'm not quite sure, Chris.
Absolutely, Kelly, yes. It's a real sense of déjà vu for Newcastle, isn't it? Their lack of cutting edge cost them in the FA Cup against Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday, and they failed again to take any of the myriad chances created tonight. Lively start to match the atmosphere. They were all over Leicester in the early stages. Sean Longstaff shooting over from close range. Bruno Guimaraes hitting the side netting from the edge of the area. Callum Wilson's shot deflected just wide. Joel Linton's header just wide. Longstaff again, shot well saved by Danny Ward. It's a lengthy list of chances, but none taken. And as is so often the case, Leicester's confidence grew, and they've had moments. Castagna to Daka, well positioned, 8 yards out, free shot on goal. Incredibly, the shot didn't come. He tried an intricate little ball to Albrighton at the back post. It was never really on, and the chance, like the pass, went by. But no question, it was much more of an even contest by the time the half-time whistle went, which will encourage Leicester, although there is far more firepower on the Newcastle bench, which could be a factor in the second half. But as you say, somehow it's goalless. Newcastle 0, Leicester 0.
Steve Stone is part of our commentary team at St James's Park this evening. Steve, you can look at the positives here and the amount of chances that Newcastle are creating, but is this lack of clinical finishing starting to be a bit of a problem for Newcastle?
Well, it will if it continues past tonight's game, because this is a huge opportunity for them in the terms of how they played in the first, and I would say 25 minutes, by the way. No, it hasn't been the whole half. For 25 minutes they were excellent. They created 8 to 10 really, really good chances. Now, one was poor finishing, one was by a good Premier League goalkeeper making some clinical saves, but also Leicester really dug in as well. Leicester dug in terms of their defensive unit. They were excellent after the first 25 minutes. Now, this might be tactical genius as well by Brendan Rodgers. He's leaving 3 to 4 at the top end of the pitch, so every time the ball breaks down or turns over, Leicester sort of look dangerous. This happened to them a couple of times, and you're thinking, as there's more space grows into the game, as players start to tire and Newcastle don't get that goal, you're going to see more and more opportunities for Leicester to hit Newcastle on the counter-attack. This next goal is going to be so important. Whoever gets it could go on to win the game. That's how it feels at the minute.
Steve Stone, thank you very much. Steve and Vicky Sparks are bringing you commentary of Newcastle against Leicester on Sports Extra. Chris Coles will bring us updates here when we bring you commentary on 5 Live of the second half of Manchester United against Charlton, with United leading by 1-0. Coming up, we'll round up the rest of the day's sports news after the BBC News with Jill Mackenzie.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Labour says the government's proposals to require a minimum service level during public sector strikes are stupid and insulting. Ministers say the strikes bill would protect lives. If it passes through Parliament, the legislation would cover areas including health, transport and border security. Our political correspondent is Helen Catt.
Unions are pretty critical of this, and the Trades Union Congress General Secretary Paul Novak warned that it would risk further strikes. He reckons it is undemocratic, unworkable, and he says almost certainly illegal. We should also say that Labour is opposed to this, and they have said that if they were elected at the next election, they would actually repeal it if this legislation is passed.
The family of a British aid worker who's missing in Ukraine say they're very worried for his health and whereabouts. Chris Parry was last seen alongside another man from the UK, Andrew Bagshot, who's also missing. The parcel delivery firm Evri has apologised to customers for not delivering their parcels on time or at all. The company says staff shortages, Royal Mail strikes and bad weather contributed to the delays, which it says will be sorted in the next few days. Official figures show the UK's home entertainment market is now worth more than £11 billion. That's a rise of nearly 40% since before the pandemic. The Entertainment Retailers Association says this year's growth has been driven largely by Top Gun Maverick and Harry Styles. Sarah Crompton is a theatre critic.
What's really happening is that people are exercising a change in how they live. I feel that people are choosing and able, of course, to watch far more at home. But theatres and so on are reporting changes in habits. Nevertheless, a successful show in the theatre will still be a full show.
And the publisher of Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, says it's become the UK's fastest-selling non-fiction book ever. It sold more than 400,000 copies on its first day. That includes hardback, ebook and audiobook formats.
BBC Sounds.
Hey, Alison John here. We're going to tell you how to get more from your potentially brand new and still in its box smart speaker.
Start by saying, open BBC Sounds.
Then you can listen to a music mix.
Play Ramesh Ranganathan for the love of hip-hop.
Nice. You could maybe try a new podcast.
Like Play Football Daily. Or if you fancy a bit of live radio, just say...
Play 5 Live.
It's easy.
Music, radio and podcasts. Available on most smart speakers.
Just say Open BBC Sounds to get started.
This is 5 Live Sport with Kelly Cates.
Hello, welcome back to 5 Live Sport. Our focus this evening is the EFL Cup quarter-finals, the first two of them. Manchester United taking on Charlton at Old Trafford. Man United leading by an Anthony goal to nil at half-time. We'll be back there very shortly for commentary on 5 Live Sport. On Sports Extra, our commentary matches, Newcastle against Leicester. No goals in that one, but plenty of chances for Newcastle in the first half. St James's Park for the second half of that one on Sports Extra very shortly. The first round action is continuing at the Masters Snooker, and Jamie Broughton is watching at London's Alexandra Palace.
And we're watching the two-time champion Mark Williams take on David Gilbert. The Welsh legend started off by knocking in brilliant back-to-back centuries to go 2-0 up. He then came close to making a third century in the next frame, but broke down on 95 as he extended his lead to 3-0. Williams then quickly claimed the fourth frame of the evening to lead 4-0 at the mid-session interval. We've just resumed after that break, and Gilbert has just pulled a frame back with a break of 59. 6 is the target for victory and a quarter-final showdown against Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Jamie, thank you very much. And Jamie will bring us updates, or you can watch the action all evening on the BBC Sport website. In rugby union, a hearing is taking place right now to decide Owen Farrell's participation in the Six Nations. Farrell was cited for a dangerous tackle when playing for Saracens on Friday. He could be banned for the start of the championship. And one other bit of news from the world of rugby. Former England and Lions centre David Duckham has died at the age of 76. He played 36 times for his country and was one of the stars of the Lions' victorious 1971 tour of New Zealand. Wales manager Rob Page says he hopes Gareth Bale still has a part to play for the national side after his retirement. Page spoke to Rick Edwards on 5 Live Breakfast this morning.
He phoned me Sunday, so he gave me a heads up, which I respect him for that. You always sort of anticipate when you think it's going to happen, and I thought, is it now? You know, he's just qualified for the World Cup. He scored a goal in the World Cup. Is now the right time for him to go? I respect what he's done for our country. He's been an absolute icon. He's a legend. And of course, there's the sadness of we'll never get to see Gareth Bale put a pair of boots on again for Wales and play in Cardiff. But it gives others now an opportunity to step up, and some of those younger players, and I think that was part of his reason for doing it, if I'm being completely honest, that he didn't want to hinder the progress now of some of these younger ones. And again, you've got to respect him for that.
So now looking ahead, both for Gareth and for Wales, do you feel optimistic about the Wales national team?
From a personal point of view, because of the impact he's had and what he's done for Wales over the years, we have got some exciting players coming through, and I'd still like him to be a part in whatever capacity. And it'd be great, wouldn't it, for the young player to turn up and still see that Gareth Bale's part of it in whatever capacity. Like I said, perhaps it's not as a coach or on the grass, but it might be whether it's an ambassador role or whether it's part of a committee. We don't know. I have spoken to him briefly about it, but that's something I need him to go and have some time with his family, and then later on we will discuss in what sort of capacity that will be.
That was Rob Page talking about the retirement from international football of Gareth Bale. I'm joined by former Wales defender Sam Ricketts. Sam, there's been lots said about what happens next without Gareth Bale, but what does Wales look like without him? What does Rob Page start to do to rebuild this side that has been, if not solely focused, but heavily focused on Gareth Bale?
Yeah, I think this is the real beginning of a new chapter for Wales. And to be brutally honest, in the cold light of day, I'd have to say it isn't going to be as exciting as the last one, and that's purely because of Gareth. You know, I think he has solely carried the country from 100 and odd ranked in the world to where they are now. Great European Championships, and obviously going to the World Cup. But he is the big reason behind the success. So for Wales coming forward, and we have got exciting young players coming through, but you can't expect to get another Gareth Bale straight away afterwards. So I would say hopefully it isn't our highlight is behind us now. So I think, you know, in time to come, we'd like to achieve what we have done again, but it's going to be very, very hard to emulate what Wales have done in the last 6, 7, 8 years or so.
difficult to replace, as you say, a talent and a superstar like Gareth Bale. But there is still experience in the Wales squad. And even though Aaron Ramsey, Joe Allen are 32, there's still been a bit of talk about whether there's still a role for them. What would you do? Do you think they use them as a bridge between, let's call it the Gareth Bale era, and the future, or do they start to phase them out as well now?
No, I think you need as much continuity as you can, and for two real good lads. Joe Allen, can go on and play. Listen, he might not play 90 minutes every game, but he's only 32. We're talking now, if you look after yourself well as a player, and you're fortunate with injuries, you've got
here on 5 Live Sports Extra. You can stay with 5 Live or switch over to 5 Live if you want to hear the second half of Manchester United against Charlton. But here it's the second half of Newcastle United against Leicester City, and we're underway. Newcastle it is who get us underway, kicking from right to left in the black and white shirts, the black shorts and the black socks. Leicester in their home kit as well, all royal blue. No changes for either side at half-time. 0-0 as we approach this second half, and Newcastle starting brightly. Here is Joe Linton into the penalty area, left-hand side, hits the post and spins away, and got a deflection on the way through as well. It's a Newcastle corner, and they're looking perhaps to take it quickly. Joe Willock thought about it, didn't he, Steve Stone? But in the end, leaves it for the boots of Kieran Trippier. But what a start to this second half from Newcastle, and Joe Linton so unlucky.
Well, what a start from Newcastle. Well, Leicester, I thought right from the start, tried to come out and press just that little bit higher. It just looked as if they changed the tact a little bit, tried to get together and press high. They got through the press really, really quickly, and Joe Linton just managed to drag one onto the post, but Leicester still surviving.
Trippier's ball in is a good one. Joe Linton meets it on the edge of the 6-yard box, but it was just above him, so he heads it up and out of the penalty area and then fouls Youri Tielemans down by the corner flag, and it will be a free kick to Leicester City.
Well,
breathless.
The first 25 minutes of the first half were quite incredible. We spoke about how did Leicester actually be able to stay in the game, but they have this knack of doing this at the minute, and I'm looking at their bench as well with Vardy and Iheanacho, and it's something that they do. They do bring these sort of players on with 20-25 minutes to go when they're in games, and the space starts to open up and they start stretching teams down the side, and that's what the manager's trying to get to at the minute. He's taking a little bit of a gamble in terms of Newcastle having so much possession and so many chances, but there will become a point of the game it's 0-0, and he brings those two players on who have real pace. It will cause Newcastle a problem. So maybe we're looking at Leicester and thinking, right, let's get to 30 minutes to go, let's see what they've got.
Newcastle have a problem here. Kieran Trippier is down, receiving some treatment over on the far side. Just seeing a replay of that Joe Linton effort. It was a good boot in the end from Leicester City. Just deflected that effort onto the post. So close for Newcastle taking the lead.
Well, Joe Linton's tried to drag one and try and give the goalkeeper the eyes. It's as if normally you would see a player when he opens up his body there with that right-hand side, try to put it in the far corner, but he's give the goalkeeper the eyes and try to drag it across him, and just a great little touch by the goalkeeper again, or somebody else in front to put it onto the post. But Trippier does look to have a problem here. He stayed down for a while, and he's a big influence on this Newcastle team, so that'll be a big loss. And I think Harvey Barnes is somebody who will, if Trippier comes off, will dictate that side, that position, whoever comes on, because I like Harvey Barnes. He's got real talent, good running, had a good season so far. In terms of what Leicester's been a pretty inconsistent season, he's been one of their main men. I think he's got better and better as the years have gone on. He's really now become a main force in this Leicester side.
Well, discussions down on the Newcastle bench. Fortunately, Trippier now back up to his feet and just jogging down that right-hand side and asking for the ball. So hopefully, from a Newcastle point of view, he is fit and ready and raring to go once more. 0-0, 3 minutes gone already in the second half here on 5 Sports Extra. Joe Linton picks it up on the left-hand side. Well dispossessed though, and Leicester can come forward, or Brighton will try and play it in centrally to Perez, but it's picked up by Newcastle, and Joe Linton has it once more just inside the Newcastle half. Here is Longstaff, ball out to the right-hand side, looking for the run of Almiron. Offside flag goes up, and fortunately so for Almiron, because in truth it was a terrible touch by the Paraguayan, straight out of play. So the lineups for you: Pope in goal for Newcastle, the back four of Trippier, Schär, Botman and Byrne. Ahead of them it's Longstaff, Guimaraes and Willock. with Almiron, Wilson and Joelinton, who's hit the post early doors in this second half up front. Leicester with Ward in goal, the back four of Castagna, Amasi, Fass and Thomas. Tielemans and Ndidi ahead of them, with Albrighton, Perez and Barnes supporting Daka up front. And again, very limited options for Leicester on the bench. They're without a host of players, including James Maddison, Dewsbury Hall, Johnny Evans still a long-term absentee. They really have struggled once again with injuries this season, but the starting lineup is packed with Premier League quality. Patson Daka in particular has looked lively through the middle. Harvey Barnes has shown glimpses of what he can do, but it's been Newcastle on top. Still 0-0 though here on 5 Sports Extra as the ball is sent forward out to the right hand side. Patson Daka looking for it, dispossesses Trippier, and Barnes into the penalty area. Good run, excellent sliding block by Cher. Barnes wins the header, Tielemans drives, and it's over the angle of post and bar. It caught a deflection. It's a Leicester corner.
Well, we talked about Leicester just coming more and more into this game. Newcastle of course will still have their opportunities there, but a great little drive inside by Barnes. We've seen it so many times before where he gets the ball and he either drags it down with his right foot to cross it with his left foot for a little cutback, or he drives inside and uses that defender to try and bend in. Good defending from Newcastle, but Leicester just starting to develop themselves into the game.
So Leicester City corner taken from the right hand side. The blue shirts on the move. It's cleared away by Longstaff out to Harvey Barnes midway through the Newcastle half, out to the right hand side once more. Good delivery in, and Pope was stretching over the bar. It goes. Well, he had it covered, Nick Pope, and he had to do so because that was a wicked whipped in delivery by Albrighton, but it's behind for a Newcastle goal kick.
Well, it's one of those awful ones that the goalkeeper can't do anything about. It's you try to whip the ball in the box, but he gets it a little bit too straight from the right hand side. It was Albrighton that put it in. Pope obviously then loses his bearings a little bit, can do nothing about him. It could just sail over the top of him and into the far corner. I thought it was going to happen for a second, but you know, again, dangerous from Leicester, even though it wasn't the intended target for where he was trying to put the ball. Dangerous from Leicester.
Good ball out to the left hand side, and Joelinton, Guimaraes goes tumbling and wins the free kick under pressure from Jose Perez, and that is why we have extended boos, and also because Guimaraes has an arm in the air and is gesturing that he might be hurt here, and Perez falls on him quite awkwardly as well, and he is going to require some treatment, Bruno Guimaraes. And as the medical staff come on, perhaps concern here for Newcastle as we see a replay of that Albrighton effort bouncing on the top of the Newcastle net.
Yeah, and you know, Leicester coming back into it, you know, the weather, the storm in the first half, and it was a pretty big storm, I've got to say. You know, they did well to weather it. Goalkeeper has played well, he's in form there, no problem with him. You've got the two centre halves who performed well in front of the goalkeeper. And of course we're just looking at Bruno there with Perez just falling on top of him. Awkward, nasty fall, painful.
And there is applause as Bruno Guimaraes is just sitting up, but it is one of those that Perez, he just catches him on the knee as he's coming down, doesn't he, with that left boot. Unintentional from Perez, but clumsy.
I've seen Perez do that a load of times. I used to see him when he was at Newcastle do that. He's very clever at just clipping the back of somebody's heels, and then he actually didn't mean to stand on him, but his follow through is just done on the back of, or the inside of Bruno's knee, right in that medial ligament where it's really sore, tender spot. It's good from Perez coming back into the game and trying to work hard for his team.
Well, he's up to his feet, Guimaraes. He's temporarily off the pitch as the free kick is sent into the Leicester area, and the header is over the bar. Another huge chance goes begging for Newcastle United. And what an opportunity it was again for Dan Burn. He's getting into the right positions. He's making the runs like Longstaff is inside the penalty area, edge of the 6-yard box, meets it with his head. He's got the height. It's over the bar. It's another chance that goes begging for Newcastle.
Well, I would say that's probably the best chance. Unopposed, 8 or 9 yards out. Great ball in from Trippier. Just floats into a good area. This time the Leicester defenders, who've been excellent when balls have come in the box, were certainly nowhere to be seen. And he's put it over the bar.
Here comes Wilson, pulls the ball back to the edge of the area. Longstaff drives, good save by Ward, and he pushed it away from the on-rushing Willock as well. It's out for a corner. St James's Park, it's on his feet again, but Danny Ward is having a blinder.
Well, he's having a great game, and that time Leicester tried to play out from the back, got press from Newcastle again, took it off and goes over to Sean Langstaff, who just takes his touch a little bit to a wide area, still gets a good strike, but great save again from the goalkeeper.
So corner to Newcastle, Kieran Trippier to take it, swings it into the crowded 6-yard box. It's just over the head of Joe Linton and will bounce out off the corner flag for a throw to Leicester deep inside their own territory. 0-0, 9 minutes gone in the second half.
Well, it's been a brilliant start to the half. We've got to say we've got a real cup tie feel about it, real entertainment. Fans have now got back up for it as well. Newcastle have just had a couple of opportunities, but again we're still seeing Leicester defend resolutely. The two centre halves have been magnificent back there, and when they fail to get something on it, Newcastle just can't get past the goalkeeper at the minute. But still, we say it again, we've got these substitutes from Leicester to come on, quick players who can change a game. Harvey Barnes and Dakar at the minute are trying to stretch Newcastle. Perez in between the lines, trying to get in the ball, trying to occupy off the back of Bruno Guimaraes. Sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not, but they're going to stick to their game plan, Leicester. There's nowhere they're going to change what they're going to do. They're going to keep going and trying to do what they do, and we'll see with 20-25 minutes to go if they change and get some of the quicker players on the pitch to stretch Newcastle.
Over the halfway line go Leicester. Newcastle win it back. Leicester send it forward looking for Harvey Barnes, but it's picked up by Guimaraes, and Fabian Schär will turn calmly and send it over the halfway line looking for the run of Joe Linton, who chests it down, goes down. The referee Darren England says nothing doing. Newcastle will pick up possession again and send it forward out to the left hand side, and Joe Willock. Goalless here on 5 Sports Extra. 1-0 Manchester United still lead in the other Carabao Cup quarter-final against Charlton of League One. That's over on 5 Live if you would like that commentary, but we're delighted to have your company here with me and Steve Stone as the ball is played forward by Leicester, picked up by Dan Burner to shoot, won't do so from there. Guimaraes plays it to Almiron, cleared away by Harvey Barnes. Longstaff picks it up once more. Here is Trippier, swings the ball in, fast with the clearance away out of the penalty area. A little back heel clearance from Fast there.
Yeah,
bit of improvisation, did well.
Great clearance from him again, you know, great positioning just at that front post. Nothing's going to get past him there. Experienced.
Throw goes in from Kieran Trippier. Sean Longstaff turns into Wilfred Ndidi, who's then trying to clear the ball away. Longstaff has got his body over it. It's one of those where he's almost going to crawl away with the ball beneath him there, but you're not allowed to do that, and the referee says nope, it's a Leicester free kick just outside their own penalty area.
I've got no idea what the rule is with that, I've got to be honest with you. The referee, I think, probably just gives a free kick just for the safety of all players involved. Longstaff's on the floor, he's getting trod on, and he's trying to protect the ball. He's trying to get out of the way as well, but realistically it's a Leicester free kick.
So League Cup quarter-final commentary is coming up for you tomorrow as well on 5 Live. Southampton against Manchester City. Join us on 5 Sports Extra for Nottingham Forest against Wolves. But will it be Newcastle? Will it be Leicester making it through to the semi-finals here at St James's Park? Ball all the way down deep inside Newcastle territory, and Harvey Barnes just gesturing his blue-shirted teammates up. In terms of the options that this very stretched Leicester bench has, they are so depleted with injuries. They do have Jamie Vardy, they do have Kelechi Iheanacho. Those are the forward options that your eye turns to, but it's Newcastle coming forward here down the left-hand side. Byrne plays it in. Oh, clearance just over his own crossbar. Had Danny Ward stretching, but the distance was enough on it eventually, and it will be a Newcastle corner, but nervy moments there for Leicester City. Castagna it was on the stretch, and it's one of those that could have gone anywhere, Steve Stone.
Yeah, it could have absolutely went anywhere, but Castagna, at least he's got himself back into a position to make the recovering tackle or clearance. We're looking at in Newcastle at the minute when Leicester are going forward because they're trying to push that little bit further, but Leicester are trying to commit just that little bit more men into the Newcastle area. They're just getting caught a couple of times on the counter-attack, and both fullbacks for Newcastle are trying to get forward. Good runners in behind.
Corner from Trippier, swung into that 6-yard box, big header away from Fass out of the penalty area, brought down on the edge of the box by Albrighton, who then ran into Willock. There's nobody up there for Leicester, so it will come straight to Longstaff, who stayed on halfway, who sends it long, looking for Joe Linton, who does win the header, but Danny Ward just pats that down very calmly inside his own 6-yard box, and Leicester will get things moving again. 0-0 0-0, 13 minutes gone in the second half. They almost give the ball away on the edge of their own penalty area. Fast just taking a chance there. Perez then on the stretch, sends it forwards. Good challenge by Botman. That almost turned out quite nicely for Leicester, and Daka's done well to get a foot back in as Leicester look to win it back. Perez goes in with the header. Comes to Guimaraes for Newcastle, and Didi goes down. Guimaraes goes down. He was fouled by Daka, and Newcastle are saying, they're all waving. All the fans are going, yellow card for Patson Daka, because he's put in a few of those challenges. But Darren England, don't even know if there was a final warning there, but he's got away with it again, Patson Daka.
Well, no, there was a few challenges going in. You're going to expect that at this stage of the season. When you're in a quarter-final of a cup competition, you haven't got players going in with those sort of challenges. It's not a cup tie. It's as simple as that. You have these challenges, and there's nothing wrong with these. Went in firm and strong, and then Bruno's probably reacted a little bit, but. No, you accept that it's a foul, yeah, and you get on with it. Not every tackle has to be a yellow card.
Has he done too many, though?
Yes,
I think that's what.
But you know, this is a cup tie. This is what we want to see. We want to see the blood and the guts and the thunder of, and we also want to see good football as well. We don't want to see people just kicking people. I don't think Daka's went around kicking people. He's actually been a real good force at the top end of the pitch. He's tried to use his physical presence at times.
Let them play, says Steve Stone here on 5 Sports Extra, as Leicester win the ball outside their own penalty area. Try and clear it up towards halfway. It's well charged down. Castagna then makes a hash of clearing that, and Willock's won it back. Joelinton plays it forward. Burn into the penalty area. 1-0 to Newcastle United. And what a moment this is for the boyhood Newcastle fan Dan Burn, the club that broke his heart as an 11-year-old and let him go. He returned last January, and now at the age of 30 he finally has the goal that he so craves, and Newcastle finally have the breakthrough that they so desired. They lead Leicester by a goal to 0.
Well, if you go on chances, and chances created from Newcastle are definitely the team that should be in front. Leicester just got caught in possession on the far side. Newcastle pounced on them. Some great one-touch play. I think it's Albrighton that tries to spin it out. Gets caught on the far side by Dan Burn, who eventually scores. Again, they try to play out at the back, and it's just overplaying. It's just overcomplicating things. Dan Burn's really positive in what he does. Pulls it onto his right foot, if anything. Slides it into the far corner. And for the first time in the match, the goalkeeper can't get anywhere near it.
Well, the delight on his face, the delight in this stadium, it's a moment that he will have dreamed of his entire life. And as we say, he thought the dream was gone. He was at Newcastle as a youngster. They released him around Christmas time, he said. He said he ruined Christmas that year. We're just past Christmas now. We're into the new year, January 2023. A month, a day that Dan Burn will never forget, because he scored his first goal for his beloved Newcastle United. And as they look to reach and win their first major trophy since 1969, or take it back to 55 if you count the FA Cup above the Intercity Fairs Cup, he's put them with one foot in the semi-final.
Yeah, it's a neat little finish. I think he pulls it with his right foot, indeed he goes to close him down, and it's the first time that the goalkeeper's just been unsighted. It's went through Ndidi's legs. Goalkeeper can't quite see it, and it just rolls into the bottom corner. But you've got to go to the incident where Leicester have the ball on the far side to start with. I think Albrighton has it, and Dan Burn's the one that closed them down. And I think on the far side, I'm not sure who it is. I think it's either Amati or Castagna, who's had another opportunity to probably try and clear it out the danger zone, and has tried to play and has been closed down after that. And the Newcastle pressure was just too much on it. But Leicester have only got themselves to blame in that situation. They could have just cleared out a play. They could have just got it down the pitch, and they've tried to be too precise in their own half, and it's cost them.
And there's real frustration here for Leicester, and Jose Perez has to be careful, because he's just gone into the book. He is still having a conversation with referee Darren, and he's still going on. We're about to start again. He's got to calm himself down, Perez, the former Newcastle player, of course, as Leicester head the ball out of their own penalty area. Joe Willock picks it up, plays it to the left-hand side, and Joelinton and Dan Burns on the charge again. But Joelinton plays it back to Willock. Ball into the penalty area, cleared away by Luke Thomas for Leicester, and Harvey Barnes will play it forward to Patson Daka. Under pressure inside his own half, almost managed to squeeze it through centrally to Barnes, but Newcastle get the interception, and Guimaraes sees the space out on the right-hand side, but the flag goes up against Almiron. And I wonder if they've you know, they probably haven't, but I wonder, they've reminded the official that they don't have VAR, because that flag went up very quickly that time.
Well, it went up really quickly, and from where we weren't sure of it, and the fans obviously behind him followed the ball. Obviously the linesman's got his eye on Almiron just as the ball's being played, doing his job, and Leicester have held a good high line, and he probably is just offside. Now we're seeing the changes, trying to look at what we talked about earlier. Leicester were obviously trying to get to 0-0 with 30 minutes to go, so they could bring Vardy and Iheanacho on. That's exactly what they've done. Unfortunately for them, Dan Burns put one in the back of the net. I've got to say, Newcastle normally right side dominant, and Dan Burn for the first time this season has made a lot of forward runs and got beyond Joe Linton, got beyond Willock. And it's made the difference, because Leicester obviously in this second half have shut down this right hand side of Newcastle, and Leicester were just sort of getting back in the game. They were just sort of feeling comfortable, as if are Newcastle ever going to be able to break this Leicester team down?
Yes, those two changes that Steve Stone mentions are Vardy and Iheanacho on. Two players we highlighted in terms of the attacking threat they have on their bench. No Maddison still, would have several players out injured, and the players that have come off, Daka and Thomas. So a shift potentially in formation as well for Leicester, and it does look as though they've gone to a 3 at the back. So Castagna slotting in there, Barnes and Albrighton playing as wing backs, and Armati and Fass making up that back 3 for Leicester. And they are so comfortable changing position under Brendan Rodgers, and they've got a bit of space here with Vardy to Perez. The booze once again out to the left hand side and finds Harvey Barnes, left hand side of the penalty area, but Newcastle will clear away through Guimaraes. Newcastle leading by a goal to 0 at St James's Park. 19 minutes gone in this second half here on 5 Sports Extra. Wout Fass has it for Leicester, and Daniel Amati will now pick it up. But already, I mean, yes, Leicester have had little spells of possession in this match, apart from Newcastle dominating most of it, but it is so fascinating, isn't it, the psychology of scoring a goal. Yes, of course Newcastle are going to try and come forward, but we just saw there Leicester in possession as they win the throw over on the far side. That is the first time in the entire match that Newcastle haven't pressed them. They've just sat back, they've kept their shape, because now they have something to protect.
Well, that's it. Now they've got something to lose as well, because now they're in front, and now in their minds, and this is how you've got to be really careful, you're sort of already thinking that you're in the semi-final, where there's a long way to go. Newcastle have already dropped deeper. It's happening again.
And Leicester are encouraged. They're coming down the right hand side, ball into the penalty area, looking for Vardy, headed away by Fabian Schär, out for a Leicester City throw. There's a long time to drop back and hold on.
Well, it is, and Leicester obviously with the 2 substitutions as well, and the change of shape will be the different dynamics for Newcastle to try and deal with. But still, this game's going to open up.
Yep, lovely little 1-2 with Willock and Wilson. Wilson was then brought down on the halfway line. Wilfred Ndidi goes into the book, and again it's another one of those taking one for the team. This time it's a Leicester City player who's called into action.
Yeah, Leicester before that, they were much more dynamic. Iheanacho just dropping in between the lines with Perez. Vardy tried to stretch him. Now you can see the 2 centre halves of Newcastle already just looking, thinking this is a different proposition when Vardy comes on the pitch as opposed to Daka. Daka's got the pace and can't stretch him, but Vardy's got the pace and he's got the intelligence and he's got the finishing power. He has that knack of scoring a goal. So Leicester have now got a different proposition for Newcastle to work for. Leicester will just be devastated the fact that they've conceded that goal. They'd nearly got the plan exactly right in terms of trying to keep it tight, trying to keep it 0-0, and then bringing the subs on. 2 or 3 minutes, it would have been totally different.
Joe Linton closes down Tielemans, and Didi gets a foot in that giveaway.
I think Leicester have just given I think I've got to be honest, I think Leicester in possession have just been a little bit untidy at times. I think they've just been a little bit too lapsadaisical with it. They know Newcastle are going to come and press them. They played them 3 weeks ago, and Didi's been caught on the ball numerous occasions. Tielemans as well, for somebody of his ability, must know that he's going to get closed down. Even when we had Barnes, when they created that opportunity on the left hand side before, great opportunity to get 1-on-1, just didn't get his head up quick enough and wasn't decisive enough in what he was trying to do, and let Newcastle get back in with their power and their running power to get back and get back at them. You got to move the ball quicker when you play a Premier League team as dynamic as Newcastle. You need to be right on it, you need to shift it quick, and you need to match their energy. And for parts, Leicester haven't quite done that, have they? That's what you would say. The undisappointing thing about the Leicester performance is, yes, they've stayed in the game, and yeah, they've defended really well at times. The centre halves have been great, and the goalkeeper. You've got to be dynamic, you've got to get people in behind, you've got to match the opposition.
They're trying that dynamism here as they play the ball through, looking for Perez inside the penalty area, but Pope comes out and gathers. A couple of moments ago, Guimaraes had the venom on a pass out to the left that he had on those 2 shots in the first half. Set it straight out of play, but he is so fired up for this one, as are Newcastle, leading by a goal to nil. Here is Willock down the left-hand side, plays it in field to Joelinton, and now Guimaraes urged to shoot, tried to play the ball through. It was a great ball in truth. Harvey Barnes on the stretch. Now they're claiming a back pass, the Newcastle fans, but it never was. He wasn't in control of the ball, Barnes, and it is gathered by Danny Ward. Joelinton almost dispossessing Tielemans. That's turning into a real battle as Leicester bring it away down the left-hand side.
Well, Joelinton and the likes of Willock are all over Tielemans and Ndidi, and Bruno's coming out with slot trying to put pressure on them as well, and unfortunately at times Leicester are just giving the ball away with that in that central area, and it's just causing them too many problems, and they're getting counter-attacked.
Here come Newcastle with Trippier down the right-hand side, tried the 1-2 with Longstaff, plays it off fast. It's a Newcastle corner. They lead 1-0 midway through the second half.
Leicester won't change though. They'll keep doing what they're doing. They'll keep trying to play it out from the back, and as they try to play through the lines and they try to get into the likes of Perez and Barnes and Iheanacho, they will at some time, it will at one point in the game happen in the next 25 minutes. They will get one of those opportunities to get that counter-attack going. It's whether they can make it count. It's as simple as that, because at the minute when they're playing out from the back, Newcastle are all over them. They're giving it away too cheaply. They will break them. They will break them at some stage.
So corner to be taken by Almiron from this right-hand side. Willock's there as a short option. Again, Newcastle are complaining that Albrighton on this occasion isn't far enough away. I think he is, in truth, and the officials are saying get on with it. So Willock plays it back to Almiron. Trippier now will send it out to the right-hand side, and Willock lifts it into the penalty area. There are bodies there at the far post, appealing for a penalty. Newcastle as Tielemans cleared it away. A nice work back from Newcastle inside the penalty area. Shot is driven in and bobbles right into the hands of Danny Ward from Miguel Almiron on the edge of the D.
Well, another well-worked corner from Newcastle, trying to get the overload so they can put a ball in from a dangerous area. Looks like Wilson got a little nudge at the back post, but nowhere near enough for a penalty. Comes back to the edge of the box, and a decent strike, but the goalkeeper's always going to save that one. And Leicester again defending really well.
Nice drag back by Harvey Barnes, but to nobody, and spins out of play for a Newcastle throw. Newcastle, who lead by a goal to nil, 25 minutes gone in this second half. A reminder that over on 5 Live we have Manchester United against Charlton. Manchester United still leading 1-0 against League One Charlton in tonight's other League Cup quarter-final. All the reaction to both of these games on the Football Daily podcast. You can download that from BBC Sounds, and you might want to check out the latest Sports Desk podcast as well. It has a Saudi Arabian focus. Ronaldo, Saudi Arabia and a World Cup bid as Newcastle come forward. Joelinton into the area, 2-0, and Newcastle United take a huge step to a semi-final as they continue their pursuit of League Cup glory this season. Joelinton, calmly done. Newcastle 2, Leicester 0.
Well, Leicester just switched off from a throw-in, that's all it was. They've been in the game, no problem. Quick one. Plays it back inside to Callum Wilson. Gets dropped off to Almiron, who's made a run inside. Great little run. Through balls in behind for Joelinton to run into. Doesn't have to break his stride. It's the first time he's left foot back across the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper's got no chance. He's still moving forward. Great incisive move, great counter-attack. But from a Leicester point of view, we'd be really disappointed that Newcastle got that much space just from a throw-in.
20 minutes to play, and St James's Park believes the black and white scarves are waving again, the flags are unfurled. Is this to be the year? Is this to be the season that they end that long wait for a major trophy? Joelinton's got the second, Dan Burn got the first. What, Steve Stone, do Leicester City do now?
Well, I was thinking before Newcastle scored there, what else could Leicester do in terms of the shape and try and change stuff. They've tried to change it to a 3 at the back. There's not much more they can do with the personnel that they've got on at the pitch at the minute, apart from trying to push the wing backs a little bit further forward. But again, that's going to get them Newcastle in between down the sides of Tielemans and Ndidi, creating more problems for them. But they're just going to probably have to stick and try and do what they're doing at the minute and keep going for it.
We're going to Wembley is the chant from St James's Park as the ball is forward towards the penalty area. Good header back by Amati to Danny Ward. And you have to say, Steve, although we've really praised Leicester's defending and generally it's been very good. Danny Ward's had a great game. They have had chances, but they've been far outnumbered by the chances of Newcastle, and 2-0 is not an unfair scoreline.
No, it's not. And if you look at the middle of the pitch, that's normally where games are won and lost.
Ball over the top though for Jose Perez, plays it to Vardy. Oh, what a miss! What a miss from Jamie Vardy. Oh, it should have been 2-1. 8 yards out, unmarked, brilliantly found by Perez. You would put your house on Jamie Vardy sticking that away, making this game interesting. Is that a sign? Newcastle will hope so. At the moment, they're just breathing a huge sigh of relief. Huge let off.
I mean, Perez has ran from that number 10 spot down the sides of one of the centre halves, and nobody's picked him up. He's in acres of space. Then they've tried to go across and try and close him down, but he's reversed the ball back first time across to Vardy, who's all in front of goal by himself. All he's got to do is place it in. He's let it come across him too far, hasn't passed it back from where he's come from, and he's just slid it wide. That was the chance, that was the opportunity. You knew they were going to get something in the game. The quality that they've got in this team, you knew Vardy would get something. That was the moment that to get back in the game.
Newcastle coming down the left-hand side. Guimaraes dispossessed by Ndidi. Joe Linton goes in. Leicester come away with it. It would have been 2-1, 60 minutes plus added time to play, and the whole momentum shift, but Vardy might get another chance into the area, pulls it across. That was on the angle. St James's Park is mocking him, but that was a much harder chance on his left foot, dragged it just past the far post. Pope narrowed the angle well. Maybe they will get more chances, Steve Stone.
Well, I've seen this tactic from Brendan before. We talked about the Man City game. It was at Leicester were at home, and they did this for 60-70 minutes, and then they brought the two centre forwards on, and they nearly got back in the game. They got beat 1-0 that day, but they had an extra performance. Tactically they were brilliant, the shape was great, and it's a very similar type of game what's happening here. Man City were dominant that day, Newcastle have been dominant here tonight, but on the flip side, when Vardy comes on, he's fresh, and you get Iheanacho on with his running power as well. You get Perez in that number 10 role. We talked about Vardy and his type of running, and when he runs in behind, when he goes, it's so incisive and it's so clever that he normally gets a chance. He normally finds a couple of chances when he comes on for 20 or 30 minutes, and he's looked really dangerous when he's come on.
And that's what Leicester have to hold on to as Perez goes down and belatedly wins the free kick just inside the Newcastle half. That they have sliced Newcastle open twice. Vardy should have definitely stuck the first one away, could have put the second one away, but that was a more difficult chance. But if he does that, it's 2-2.
Yeah, well, listen, it's a difficult chance for a centre forward, but you're talking about Vardy here, somebody who's used to running down the sides of centre halves and used to having to take things quick and incisive and drilling things into the bottom corner. What you would say is probably if it's on the other side and it's on his right foot, he's running down the other side of the centre half, you really do fancy him, but it's on his left foot. He's a bit of a swinger. He still makes good connection though. He's got a big goalkeeper to beat Nick Pope, and he just drags it past the far post.
Yeah, it was a decent effort from Vardy, particularly given he just missed that sitter a couple of minutes before. No sense that he was thinking about that as Leicester City send the free kick into the penalty area. It's cleared away by Kieran Trippier. Wilson is chasing. You wonder how long they'll leave Callum Wilson on. He's just back from illness, was rested against Sheffield. And honestly, I didn't see Alexander Isak there ready to come on, but there we go. Eddie Howe and I clearly of the same mind. Isak, their club record signing, just back from a long injury layoff himself, is ready to come on now. We've stopped play here. Yeah, Newcastle frustrated, as Steve Stone says, it's a head injury. Leicester have the player down, but Wilson had just tried a very cute little back heel to try and set Guimaraes away. And they are frustrated that play wasn't allowed to continue, but the referee perfectly entitled within his rights to stop play. So Leicester receiving some treatment and a chance here for Eddie Howe and Newcastle to give some instructions and potentially make this change with Alexander Isak, who was in such good form, wasn't he, Steve, before he picked up that injury in September. 2 goals in his first 3 games after arriving for a club record fee. Came back against Sheffield Wednesday, and he is on for Callum Wilson.
Well, he's been out quite a while as well since he made those first couple of appearances for Newcastle. Looked really sharp, incisive, really good movement down the sides of centre half, some good finishing ability as well. Every time he's one-on-one with the goalkeeper, he never seemed to panic, seemed really calm. It's going to take him time to adjust to this league in the Premier League. He's a young boy who's come for a lot of money, and you have to give these players time. Just going back to Bruno and Tielemans in the middle of the park there. It's been fascinating in the middle of the park, and Newcastle have had their 3 against Tielemans, their 2, and indeed Newcastle probably come out on top, probably because of the running power and the physicality, and they're both going at it. They both want to try and win the ball. They're both being physical in what they're trying to do, and that's how the cup tie is being played. You know, it's being played at a really frenetic pace. It's a real physical encounters in the middle of the park, and I've got to say Newcastle have probably been the better at it. They've probably won the ball back. Joe Linton's been really physical in there, and he's probably been the one that's been the difference in terms of his running power. That's made the difference between the two sides and the physicality level.
So Tielemans caught by the arm of Bruno Guimaraes, having received treatment, is back on. Accidental from Guimaraes, but Joe Linton, as Steve just mentioned, on the ball now as Newcastle play it forward, cleared away by Castagna. What a transformation, this central midfield role. He's born to it, and they tried again. He was one with Almiron that his endeavour was never questioned, but just where he should be playing, always a debate. I think we know now. Central midfield. Leicester come down the right hand side. Newcastle leading by 2-0. Space for Harvey Barnes as it's pulled back to him, 25 yards out. Here is Tielemans. Barnes and the referee clatter into each other and both go down as Leicester play the ball into the area just over the head of Jamie Vardy, and Almiron will allow that to bounce behind for a goal kick to Newcastle, who lead with 11 minutes plus added time to play by 2-0 here on 5 Sports Extra.
You still fancy Leicester to get another chance in this game. We're still seeing the movement of Vardy and Dakar Iheanacho running just down the side. Perez again getting those horrible little positions where nobody knows who's meant to pick them up, whether it's the centre half or whether it's Bruno, a midfield player. And they're causing Newcastle problems. The two wing backs have pushed right on, like we talked about before. What different could they do? They pushed right on in terms of Barnes, and it's made a little bit of a difference. But again, on the other side of it, Newcastle can then counter-attack them. But Leicester have to go for it now. They have to go for it. There's 10 minutes left in a quarter-final of a cup competition,
and they're 2-0 down. And just to underline Steve's point there, as Nick Pope sends the ball straight out of play from that goal kick throw to Leicester on the halfway line right hand side, that three of Newcastle's defence came together there, and you presume that they are discussing that very thing. You had Cher, Botman and Byrne just having a little debate just outside their own penalty area, because they know that Leicester, since Vardy came on, have got him behind them. He had a huge chance to make it 2-1. Jamie Vardy missed from 8 yards, unmarked. That would have given Leicester 16 minutes to find a leveller. As it is, they trail by 2-0. They have the ball just inside their own half, ready to take this free kick, which Fass plays to Ndidi. Right hand side, he goes out looking for Albrighton, but it's cleared away by Byrne, who has scored his first goal for his boyhood club. Plays it to the other goal scorer, Joe Linton, but he can't find Willock, and Jose Perez brings it forward for Leicester. He was brought down there by Sven Botman, and that will be a yellow card for the Newcastle centre half.
The space opening up is now Vardy again. It just turned over for Leicester, and again Perez just got in between the lines, just got off the back of Bruno again. Newcastle centre-halves can't come out the holes there. Or you've got Iheanacho and Vardy running down the sides of them, so they're after staying there, and eventually somebody comes out and takes Perez out. But they're starting to find those spaces, Leicester. You just wonder if it's just too late.
Well, they've got 9 minutes plus added time to find 2 goals to take us to penalties. No extra time in the quarter-finals as the ball is into the Newcastle penalty area. And Newcastle do get a touch on it. It will be a Leicester City corner. I'll tell you what, Wout Faes was in a great position there. Didn't make any attempt to go for the ball. Maybe from our angle, he looked closer to it than it was. It is a corner to Leicester City.
Yeah, I think he knew what was behind him. He realised that there was somebody else in front of him, just to let it run across him.
So Albrighton places this ball down. 2-0 Newcastle lead on 5 Sports Extra. As Albrighton sends the corner in, flicked away by Alexander Isak back there defending. Tielemans got a real barge on the edge of the penalty area, but kept his strength against Guimaraes, who then does manage to win the ball back, and Newcastle can come forward with Willock still midway inside his own half. Tried to play the crossfield pass, got a deflection into the penalty area. Cher clears away for Newcastle, who lead by 2-0. The header was won at the back by Castagna, but only as far as Guimaraes, and Isak through the centre, and Isak won't quite reach it. Just too much on it, and Danny Ward gathers, bowls it out overarm, because Leicester City need to get things moving. 7.5 minutes plus added time to play. They trail at St James's Park by 2-0. In field they go to Tielemans, just inside the Newcastle half. Central position, out to the right hand side once more, and Iheanacho. The runners are Perez and Vardy ahead of him, but he stops and checks. It's a poor ball in the end, straight to Joe Willock, and Guimaraes will bring it forward. But notable now, Steve, that the black and white shirts, the bulk of them are staying back, but Newcastle now driving over the halfway halfway line with Longstaff. They have 5 players involved in this attack, keeping the bulk of their forces, though, nearer the halfway line as Joe Willett picks it up. Urge to shoot, does shoot. Oh, that's not too far away at all. Just past the far post with Ward on the stretch.
Well, it was a great effort. I'm just looking at Ndidi as he cuts inside. I'm expecting the central midfield player just to go across and just block the shot, or at least try to get in the line of the ball from where Willett's trying to shoot in that far post. So at least the goalkeeper knows exactly which angle to cover. Goes nowhere near the ball and gives Willock a free effort to go from 20-25 yards out. Don't know where it's tiredness, don't know where it's frustration, but he should go across and close that down.
So a change of pace being made. Jose Perez is being booed off, the former Newcastle man, being replaced by Nampalys Mendy, and that in a nutshell tells you the limited ammunition that Brendan Rodgers has, with so many injuries. No James Maddison, no Dennis Pratt to turn to. So Mendy is on, and Perez, who has been a bit of a handful, is off. And a change for Newcastle as well. Miguel Almiron replaced by Alan St-Maximin, who missed the FA Cup defeat by Sheffield Wednesday with illness, but the Frenchman is on, and he is a player that you can absolutely turn to, can't you, Steve, if you just want to give Leicester something to think about at the other end.
Well, if you want to give him something to think about, his pace is going to cause you problems. Definitely is. The length, oh my God, he's put the flag up there. I don't think he's got any idea of what's just happened there, because we didn't. Yeah, Maximum, he will cause problems, definitely in forward areas. I think in the last few games I've been watching him as well, he's been better with his shape and from his press, coming out and pressing as a team. Probably a little bit ill-disciplined and not understanding the shape that Heady wanted to play to start with. So he's definitely got better in that respect from a defensive point of view, but you know from a forward point of view he will create problems. At the minute he just can't get in the team.
Yeah, it's one of those that in the past he's been such a key player, but consistency was always the question with St-Maximin, and end products as well, as Jamie Vardy wins that header 25 yards out. Leicester trailing by 2-0 into the final 5 minutes, and even though they lead 2-0, even though there's been the better side, you can sense the nervousness around St James's Park. They are desperate for their side to see this out, and here goes Alexander Isak, their club record signing, down the left hand side. Castagna is there with him, and he wins the corner off Castagna, and that is music to the ears and eyes of St James's Park.
Well, when you've got pace in your football team, it really, really does help. It has just showed there from Isak. He got the ball about 50 yards out in the halfway lane, dragged it one way, dragged it another, took it all the way down the centre half. The centre half can't come across and clean him out because he's not going to get the ball. Tries to drag him inside and then gets a corner for his efforts. And that's great centre forward play just to run the clock down. Newcastle now not going to be in any hurry to take it, and it's frustration for Leicester.
Manchester United still leading by the sole goal from Anthony at Old Trafford against League One Charlton in the other quarter-final. Closing stages of that match over on 5 Live. Here on 5 Sports Extra, Newcastle have a corner, leading 2-0, swung in deep by Trippier and tipped away by Danny Ward. Good save by the Leicester number 1, another one to add to his tally this evening.
Well, the Leicester goalkeeper's been in fabulous form, hasn't he? He's showed it again tonight. I think ever since Leicester got that defensive unit right with Faz in front of him, I think he's been one of the stars as well, the goalkeeper. And he's going to need to play well if Leicester are going to do well this season, as do all goalkeepers, by the way. But if they do make a save, that's their job.
It is, and he's done his job very well this evening. However, they have been breached twice, and Newcastle are on the verge of the semi-finals of the League Cup, a competition they have never won. From the corner, St-Maximin will swing it in right-footed. Ward again gets a touch on it, and it's shoveled behind by Iheanacho for another Newcastle corner.
Well, Maximin has just showed his quality and his delivery, his pace, a little bit of trickery. Just shifted across from the Leicester defender, whips a great ball in the box. He's enticing that little corridor of uncertainty where the defender doesn't want to touch it, but the goalkeeper again gets just a little finger and just does enough.
So corner to Newcastle from the far side. 3 minutes plus added time to play. They lead 2-0. They're nearly there. Corner played short over on that far side. Comes back to St-Maximin, who lifts it in high, and that's a poor delivery well over the head of Joe Linton. And Danny Ward will roll it into his 6-yard box. Leicester need to get things moving quickly, but oh, how different it could have been if with 16 minutes to play, Newcastle having just gone 2-0 up through Joe Linton, Jamie Vardy had stuck away that sitter from 8 yards as Danny Ward under pressure from a back pass from Mendy initially, then closed down by Joe Linton, but Leicester have played their way out of that pressure well. They have it over on that right hand side. And Mendy will play it back to Amati on the edge of the area, but Newcastle are starting to pick up again. They sat back when it was 1-0. Now they're employing the press in the closing stages of this match. Too much press there from Bruno Guimaraes, and it will be a free kick to Leicester and Ndidi going down. But it's just petering out now for Leicester. Are they to get one final chance that would at least make the closing stages of this match a little bit more nervy for Newcastle United in St James's Park? Jamie Vardy on the move. Botman gets there first. Header away will find Joelinton. Forward to St Maximin. Still inside the Newcastle half, but driving now over the halfway line. Ricochets into Ndidi, and Tielemans will pick it up once more. Newcastle 2, Leicester 0. Newcastle on the brink of the League Cup semi-finals. Picked up by Harvey Barnes for Leicester, midway through the Newcastle half. Central position, now advancing towards the penalty area. Iheanacho muscled off it, and Dan Burn will clear away, plays it straight out of play because Joelinton's gone down. We have to praise Vardy for his impact since coming on. Iheanacho less effective.
Well, with Iheanacho, what he does is he takes players away with his runs down the side. It leaves Vardy one-on-one with the centre half normally. So it actually helps him with the fact that Iheanacho comes on to make those intelligent runs down the side of the other centre-half. Leaves Vardy 1v1, in which they've tried to find Vardy. They haven't tried to find Iheanacho, and which is probably natural because Vardy's the better finisher. But you're right, we always said as the game was going on, doesn't matter what was going to happen in terms of the score, when they brought Vardy and Iheanacho on, they would get a chance. They would get something in terms of a chance in the game. They had 2 chances, they didn't take them, and that's been crucial. There was no way that Leicester were going to come here and dominate tonight with the team that they had out and the way that Newcastle pressed. They were going to come here, they were going to sit in there, they were going to try and counter-attack, and they were going to keep it really, really tight. What Leicester just failed to do was keep it.
Ball over the top, Alexander Isak almost gets there. Great clearance by Danny Ward coming out of his own penalty area and almost drop-kicking that ball away, as Barnes does well to win a Leicester throw just inside the Newcastle half. Newcastle have made another change. Jacob Murphy is on for Joe Willock. That will be their final change in this match in terms of substitution opportunities. You can make up to 5, but they've used their 3 opportunities as we are into 5 minutes of added time, and Leicester City are coming forward. They trail by 2-0. Here is Iheanacho, right hand side of the penalty area, cleared away by Dan Burn. What a night it could be for his boyhood club. He's scored his first goal for them. He's cleared away inside added time as Newcastle look to see this out and reach the semi-finals of the League Cup. They've won the ball back outside their own penalty area. Cher has it, plays it forward. Murphy a little slow on the uptake there. And Harvey Barnes will square it in field to Ndidi. And now Nampalys Mendy plays it forward to Iheanacho, forced away from the Newcastle penalty area, pulls it back to Castagna and out to the right hand side. Now is Albrighton, tried to swing the ball into the area. Burn jumps and that tall frame blocks the ball into the stands for a Leicester throw.
And Newcastle are just trying to see this game out. Both teams are still look really, really fit, don't they? Newcastle still look really good on the press, trying to work Leicester. Leicester moving the ball quickly.
Ball into the area, Tielemans chests it down and volleys over. Well, we've seen him score some absolute beauties, Youri Tielemans. He's got the talent, he's got the technique. He couldn't put it off on that occasion. He was behind for a Newcastle goal kick.
Do you know what? Leicester have had 3 amazing chances. I mean, that is a real good chance. I mean, Tielemans, as it's come down there to him, I know he's got his back. He's back to goal. He swivels and turns on the side. But a man of his quality normally would actually get that at least on target. It looks as if he was trying to hurry it, trying to rush it. The other chances were Vardy, as we've talked about before. Couldn't hit the target. He took them 3 crucial chances, which can make all the difference to the game. We're saying Leicester wouldn't come here and dominate and have loads of chances. But once they did get the chances, they had to be clinical with it, and they weren't. And that's been the difference there. Saying that, Newcastle weren't clinical either, were they?
Well, that's it. The number of chances that have been missed were far greater for Newcastle, but it's the moment at which Leicester missed that opportunity to get themselves back into the game. Vardy, unmarked, 8 yards out, would have made it 2-1 with 16 minutes to play, but it's 2-0 to Newcastle, 3 minutes of added time to play. They're nearly there as Longstaff won't keep that in. It's a throw. Harvey Barnes takes it quickly. Tielemans under pressure, loses out to Longstaff, fouls Longstaff, and it will be a throw. A free kick, I should say, to Newcastle midway through their own half as Eddie Howe stands, applauds on the edge of his technical area. They've brought the atmosphere, the Newcastle fans, as they have done so many times through the years. Is this long wait for a trophy. 1969, the Intercities Fairs Cup. 1955, the FA Cup. And they have seen So many cup exits over the years, often in the early rounds, as they've suffered in the FA Cup already this season. The League Cup, their last best chance, unless there's to be a remarkable twist in the Premier League title race, and we know how well they've been doing. But this is the one, this is the immediate one that they can focus on. Leicester City with the throw. We have 2 minutes of added time to play. Newcastle lead by 2-0, and they're looking to make it 3. Flag stays down. Bruno Guimaraes into the penalty area, whips the ball across. It's cleared away inside the 6-yard box. Comes back out to Joelinton. Feeds St Maximin. Left-hand side. St Maximin checks, lifts the ball in. It's over the head of Isak, headed away by Fass. And Leicester City will chase. Murphy will get there first, shoulder to shoulder with Harvey Barnes, and Murphy gets the better of him. Plays it in field to Guimaraes, who tries to dink it in. It's a rather bizarre pass in the end, and it's gathered by Danny Ward, but Newcastle won't care. They have a little over 1 minute of added time to play. They're 2-0 up, but Jamie Vardy could be in behind here. Trippier chasing. Vardy gets there. Trippier with a little nudge. Vardy holds on to it, and Trippier then does brilliantly, shields the ball out of play. It's a Newcastle goal kick, and Leicester game is almost up.
Yeah, it's been a difficult night for Leicester in terms of how many chances Newcastle have had. Well, credit to Leicester again. There's the spirit in this side, isn't there? You know, Fass at the back there, he seems like a magnet every time the ball goes in the box. He seems to be, his positioning's really, really good. The goalkeeper's done really well. They've worked incredibly hard for the manager and the team and the supporters. And what they haven't got quite at the minute is a depth of squad, and injuries have cost them as well tonight with what they've got on the football pitch. Newcastle are just going in the right direction with the momentum and have real belief and have real energy. We talked about it in the middle of the park. That's where the battle's been won tonight. Bruno Longstaff, Joelinton, they've been better. They've been outnumbered as well from the likes of, I think it's Ndidi in there and Tillemans, and they've found it difficult against that physical presence and running power against them, and that's where Leicester have found it difficult, and that's where the game's probably been won tonight.
10 seconds to play. Newcastle have a free kick inside the Leicester half. 2-0 they lead, and that is it. A huge roar of jubilation around St James's Park, because Newcastle fans believe that this could well be the season, that long wait for a trophy finally comes to an end. They are through to the semi-finals of the League Cup. Steve Stone.
Well, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? But it's a fantastic night for the Newcastle supporters and the team and the management and the club. You've got to give Leicester credit for making the game of it and what they brought to it. Fortunately, they couldn't get the finish when they needed. But looking over the 90 minutes and against the two teams and where the play was most hard and where all the action was probably had, Newcastle probably deserved to win this game. Leicester's goalkeeper was fabulous on the night. Two centre-halves for Leicester were fabulous as well, but the pressure was just probably too much for them over the 90 minutes, and Newcastle deserved to win the game. We just got to say, Newcastle are going into the semi-finals, and all the narrative about tonight is Newcastle winning a trophy. There's other teams in this competition. We've always got to remember there's the likes of Manchester United in there, and that's just tonight's draw. There's other top teams in this competition. It's a great step forward for Newcastle. It's a big hurdle, but it's not the final hurdle.
Yeah, Manchester United now 2-0 up against Charlton. Closing stages will be rejoining 5 Live for that shortly. So the other League Cup quarter-finals taking place tomorrow. Southampton against Manchester City. You can hear that on 5 Live. Nottingham Forest against Wolves is on 5 Sports Extra. You can join Steve and I back at St James's Park on Sunday for Newcastle against Fulham. That'll be on 5 Sports Extra, with Chelsea against Crystal Palace over on 5 Live. Just a word on Leicester, Steve. Were it a different story with injuries? Could this game have been different, or is it, you know, there are so many variables that you could throw into the mix?
Well, there's so many variables, of course there is, but if you get a, and this is really a difficult thing, because every manager says, well, if I had my full team out, Newcastle, if I had my full team out, this would have been a much closer game. Leicester would have really fancied their chances. Leicester are top side, no doubt about it. Leicester, in the way the football club has been run over the last 10-15 years, and the money that was spent, the manager that's got, the squad that they've built. I know they sold a couple in the summer, but they've been way ahead of Newcastle for years and years and years. Newcastle have just come to the fore and are way ahead of where they should be or what they've done in the last sort of 6 months. Leicester Football Club is a fantastic football club with a really good manager and some really good players out there. The injuries have probably cost them their squad in the league position this year, but you've still got to give them credit to get the quarter-final of a cup competition. This is a good team, Leicester. I've watched them many times, and at the minute they need somebody like a Vardy who can come in and do it on a more regular basis. Vardy's obviously getting to an age where he can't play every week. If you take Maddison out of this team, Maddison's a huge player. He's up there with the best in England, the best in the Premier League when he's on form. And for the likes of Leicester to miss somebody like that is a huge blow. Any team would miss their main man. If you're to take a Bruno or a Callum Wilson out of Newcastle, it would be huge. And Leicester have had them problems this season. So that's no disgrace tonight what Leicester have done. They've been terrific.
And he had the chance, Jamie Vardy, to make it 2-1. That, it proved to be the turning point in the second half. All the smiles of the Newcastle United, who are now doing a lap of appreciation around the pitch at St James's Park. And there is no smile bigger than on the face of Dan Burn. He worked in a supermarket as a teenager after being released by Newcastle, just in case his football career didn't work out. At the age of 30, having returned to this club a year ago, the club that broke his heart as a young boy, he scored his first goal for his beloved Newcastle United, and that, added to Joelinton, takes them into the semi-finals of the League Cup. Steve Stone, just a final word on Dan Burn as we see him grinning from ear to ear down on the pitch.
Well, that just shows it doesn't matter what job you're in or what sport you're in. If you keep going and you work hard, you do the basics right, you're a good person, you'll get to positions like this. You're right, he's walking around this pitch, he can't believe what he's actually going through now. Going to the semi-final of a cup competition in front of 52,000 people in his beloved Newcastle United, a boy from Blythe, 10 miles down the road, who never thought this would have actually happened. He's come out as the hero tonight. The TV cameras are following him round. He's the guy that's going to get interviewed. He win man of the match, and it's Newcastle's night, but it's a special night for him.
Steve Stone, thank you very much, and thank you very much, listeners, for your company. Newcastle United still celebrating. It'll go on for a while here on Tyneside. They're through to the League Cup semi-finals. They've beaten Leicester City by 2-0.